You're listening to The Sports Fix.
Portions of The Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Sports Fix listeners, don't wait all day or all week to get in on the fun. The party doesn't stop when we go off the air all week long. The Sports Fix social media sites are your one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports. Jump over to Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, and become a fan today because we love fans and they create some of the best sports talk in town, Daddy. You'll enjoy talking to your fellow Cleveland sports fans on the Sports Fix fan page. And if Twitter's your thing, well, you know how we do it. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. It's that simple.
Twitter.com/TheSportsFixCLE, baby.
Chat live with the crew during all your favorite Cleveland sports events, tickets and contests and trivia and so much more. Get with us today, The Sports Fix on social media, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Join The Sports Fix on Facebook and Twitter today.
Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Good morning, good afternoon, whatever you want to, whatever flavors in your coffee, man. Welcome into the Sports Fix. It is Monday, back at it, a short week, a holiday week. We're only going 3 days this week. We're going to take Thursday and Friday at the end of the week and do the holiday weekend thing, but man, so we've got a lot of things to cram into the next 3 days. Looking forward to it. A lot of things to talk about today as we kick off the week here on the Sports Fix. Welcome in each and every one of you guys. I am fired up as usual. Coffee was a little strong, but that's not just it. I'm fired up because it's Monday and I'm back here with you guys. Let's rock and roll and do the Sports Fix thing, baby. Welcome in each and every one of you, whether you're listening live right here on the sportsfix.net, on TuneIn and their radio application worldwide, on Spreaker and on Mixler and their respective digital applications, or welcome in each and every one of you guys around the world listening 24/7 on iHeartRadio, on Digital Delay, the world's largest internet radio provider, I might add, on iTunes and Stitcher Radio and SoundCloud and CarPlay and all the other podcast formats. Welcome in. As I said, I'm your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone, J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, here with you guys for the duration as we have the usual suspects in the house on Monday. A lot to talk about, too. John McMullen from the Sports Network. He'll be here with us just about 35 minutes from now, talking a little NFL and Browns news with him. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan will be here just about an hour from now. Looking forward to talking some Buckeyes recruiting as that keeps going on, and Indians, Cavs draft. We'll touch it all with my man, Dan Wismar, as well. We're going to get to the phone lines to each and every one of you guys, talk about the Indians weekend. It was a sandwich of things. It was, and of course, in the middle of it was the one bright spot. Man, Lenny Barker must have been lonely lately because lately it just seems like Kluber, now Tomlin. You hear the sentence, hasn't been done since Lenny Barker. We'll talk about the phenomenal performance there. We've got World Cup stuff going on. Man, I'll tell you guys a funny story I heard about one of the World Cup games over the weekend. All of that, you guys. We want to talk to you, so let's get it on the phone lines now. I say it all the time. I've got the microphone, but you are our voice, so use it. Give us a call, 216-539-7535, 216-539-7535. You can't get to the phone. You're at work listening. So many of you do that. You hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Use those ways to stay in touch, not just now, live during the show, but 24/7. Whenever you've got something on your mind, hit us up. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. You guys can email us. Some of you guys love to do that. TheSportsFix@AOL.com. All ways to stay in touch with the show. And remember, if you forget any of this stuff, just go back to the square. Go back to the starting point. Go back to home base, thesportsfix.net. It's got everything you need feed right there, from the live broadcast all the way down to the replays, to the social media, everything. It's right there. thesportsfix.net. All right, guys, I am going to open things up. You know what? Look into it the weekend. Before I get rolling in the show, I want to say, and I try to do this, and I know sometimes I miss people. I feel bad, but, I happen to notice this one because, some days, we've got a ton of interactions on the social media. So some days I go on there and Facebook will tell me, 27 people have a birthday today. Yesterday it just so happened that only 3 did, and the mayor was one of them. So happy birthday to my man Vic, the mayor. He calls in a lot. Good listener of the show. Happy birthday to him yesterday. Just want to give him a little bit of a shout out there. You know what? Looking over the weekend, we'll get into the tribe here in just a second. There's a lot to talk about, but the World Cup's going on, and I'll tell you a funny story about it. And then I'll tell you an interesting fact too. But funny story, the other day, we're flipping through the channels. It's just my son Jerry and I, and we're flipping through looking for something to watch. And I can't remember what we were small talking, and I think we were even talking about soccer, and we were joking about some of the things that we talk about here, like just in general, right? And he hits the Netherlands-Mexico game, and because we were bouncing between like 2 or 3 different things, and I'm like, yeah, man, we'll just watch us some soccer, and we said it like kind of facetiously, tongue in cheek, and then we're sitting there talking. Next thing you know, you guys obviously, if you followed sports over the weekend, know what happened. But for those of you that didn't, Mexico was up 1-0 with, I think, a minute and a half of regulation time left before they added the extra time to it. And sure enough, they get a penalty and the yellow card, and the penalty kick goes in. They tie the game. Then they added the 6 minutes to the clock there at the end of the game, and the Netherlands scores again, and boom, walk off, baby. And in a matter of 4 minutes, but anyways, my son and I are sitting here watching, and next thing you know, we're not switching anymore. We're locked on this. I'm like, wow. It's funny because and I say this all the time, when something is dramatic, when something is, especially if you're a sports guy, if you understand the rules enough that you understand the situation and the leverage, and you're down to a very meaningful situation, it affirms what I say, that you can sit down and watch any 2 teams play any athletic contest. You don't have to have a rooting interest. You don't have to even be a fan of the sport. And the natural drama of it, which is one of the intoxicating factors of sports. It's that natural dramatic factor. And there it is. It was right there on display because we're sitting there watching this thing, and amazing. It was cool. It was a good little thing to watch, and wow, the Netherlands. And then I saw an interesting fact off of that. With 4 minutes to go in the game, a gambler on at a Vegas casino, I don't know the exact details of where it was, but this was reported out. I believe ESPN's Numbers, one of their Twitter accounts, sent this out, and I was like, wow. With 4 minutes left, somebody dropped $400 on Mexico to win, on the Netherlands to win when they were down 1-0 with a couple of minutes left, and got such good odds that they won $20,000 because their gut told them with 4 minutes to go in the game to drop $400 on the improbable comeback, and the guy won $20,000. That's how improbable that comeback was right there. But anyways, just goes to show you, the pull of a dramatic moment when there's leveraged consequences. It's win or go home, and somebody's going. Speaking of, then there's some of the ridiculous stuff like, how do you do something once every 4 years and allow a team and people to train and peak and get ready for this great thing, and then have games decided on things that are not actual, and was it the number of penalties? And so, oh man, like when I saw that, I said, that's a heck of a way to lose right there, because you had one less penalty or whatever than the other team. There's got to be a better tiebreaker system than that when you get down to an elimination round of something with a big training cycle like that. I don't know. But anyways, the reverse side was that Mexico and the Netherlands. And it just showed me, I'm telling you, no interest in soccer, honestly, between the two of us, with the exception of, Team USA, which I would say fits 90% of the people listening to this right now. But, definitely not a rooting interest in Mexico or the Netherlands. There's no real star pool. We don't know any of the players out there. And, man, we sat there and we were into it. And with it, as they're going up and down, and somebody's trying to win this thing, we're like, all of a sudden, we found ourselves instantly emotionally invested. And it was just an example of some of the cool things of sports and why we get so addicted to it like we do. I definitely wanted to mention that here before we get rolling in the show. So, and hey, congratulations to them as it rolls on. We'll talk tomorrow. Of course, Mike Brandenberry is going to be mad because he's like, wow, he actually just spent a couple minutes talking about soccer. But he'll be with us tomorrow. We'll talk to him. We'll look at the USA and all of that too. Let's talk some tribe, guys. Indians. As I said, man, you know what? Part of me says let's start with the good instead of the bad. I know that's probably the easy way out, but let's do that because let's talk about Josh Tomlin real quick before we get into anything. And King Felix, too, man. Felix Hernandez, I know some people are, oh, man, one hit. And, of course, I can't tell you 22 times I think I counted between the social medias that I saw the whole one hit, just one damn hit. I saw that little skit acted out on Facebook or Twitter about 22 times after the game. But it is Felix Hernandez we're talking about out there one hitting the Indians. But let's talk about Josh Tomlin doing the same thing. And hey, if you're a baseball fan, and I know that we're talking Indians, but man, back to back, even though it was against us the second day, man, those are some performances, and it's not very often that you see that there. And by the way, a little fortune for the Indians. Did you see Clayton Kershaw yesterday as he ran that scoreless streak up to like 28 innings or something like that? And luckily the Tribe misses him here as they head there. But looking at Josh Tomlin, this is what I was referring to earlier when I said Lenny Barker. One hit shutout, 11 strikeouts. First Tribe starter to throw a complete game shutout with one or less hits, which would obviously be a no-hitter. 11 strikeouts or more, no walks. Last time somebody did that, Lenny Barker's perfect game. I was joking because earlier in the season, remember, Kluber, who goes tonight, by the way, Kluber had an outing that was the last time somebody had done it since Lenny Barker's perfect game back in 81. And I'm like, man, Lenny Barker's perfect game is getting a workout this season, man. But hats off. And that's what you can get out of Josh Tomlin when he is truly at his best. And the same issue is the consistency, which is with all of them, I mean, Corey Kluber aside, consistency and more than the offense, more than anything else. As a matter of fact, Paul Hoynes made a good point about this in one of his editorials over the weekend. It was that while everybody says, the Indians need to go get a bat, they remain top 10 offensively in most categories. They need another arm. They need another pitcher. I mean, really, I think that would so steady and solidify things if you can get one more consistent guy. And I'm not talking that you got to get a 20-25 game winner. You don't need Cy Young out here. Just another guy that you can rock, kind of anchor this rotation around and know that when this guy hits you, when his spot hits, you're going to get this, and this out of him. That steady performance each and every time. And then you only need to get one or two of these other guys to give you some consistency. It's just so many guys that, man, and it's frustrating when you see obviously what the top side of some of these guys can be. I mean, even House, got himself in trouble. So amazing how he quickly boomed just like that yesterday. He was doing well. That was a good game, man. I mean, House, and he was right there with Hernandez, especially after getting out of that first inning like that. And, man, it was just like nothing. Throws the ball away, and next pitch, next batter, goes up inside, wakes up Robinson Cano, bam, home run, gone. And just like that, it turns around, man. But, all of these guys show glimpses of that what they could be and what we want them to be, man. And that's why I do believe the next few years, I mean, obviously look at the percentages. All of these guys are not going to take that last step and become a consistent, bona fide guy. But, man, a couple of them are. Don't know who it is. Don't know who ends up surviving. I mean, trades. Who knows what could happen, how it shakes out. But, I mean, you see all of these guys. You can see the potential. And that's not the word I know a lot of you guys are interested in right now, because we're talking about this season and playoffs and all of that, and potential refers to down the road. But I am just looking ahead. I mean, I think you can see they've got the potential to have a homegrown rotation in the next couple of years, but they've got to get there. They have got to get there. And I see Bruce in the chat room about that Cano homer. Man, pitch right before he went up and in and buzzed Robinson Cano, and he was like, son, you were in AAA when this season started. Do you know who I am? My name is Robinson Cano. A team paid $200 million for me, sir, and allow me to remind you. I'm being funny, but I mean, that was almost the way it was. It was like buzzed up and inside. Oh, wow. All right. Hey, kid. I mean, it was like he just jacked it. And the look on his face when he hit it, he definitely said, by the way, they call me Mr. Cano around here. Mr. Robinson's neighborhood in Seattle. But, hey, that's the lessons learned from that youth and that inconsistency that we're sitting here talking about. I'm up against it, but let's just keep the tribe talk going. Obviously, that outing by Tomlin sandwiched between two that didn't go the Tribe's way, which ended yesterday there. We'll talk about that. I'm going to open up the phone lines, as I said, 216-539-7535. Let's keep talking Tribe when we come back. Hit us up on Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfixCLE. We'll talk some Indians baseball with you next. Don't forget, John McMullen, Dan Wismar still to come. We have only just begun today's edition of The Fix.
This is the Sports Fix.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
They call me Mr. Pig!
We'll call you whatever you like, as long as we can call you a fan of the Sports Fix.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Indians fans, GV Art and Design has unleashed their new baseball collection. This summer, you've got to have one of the hottest baseball shirts available. Indians themes, GV Art has them covered from top to bottom. Chief Wahoo, keep the Chief, one of the hottest sellers going today. GV Artwork, knocking it out of the park, teaming up with Michael Brantley to create a custom Dr. Smooth t-shirt, bringing back an old classic. GV Artwork, bringing out the wild thing. Give them the heater design. The Cleveland That I Glove collection continues to grow. New designs for women and so much more. GVArtwork.com, bringing it full force to the plate for baseball season this year. Whether you check them out online, GVArtwork.com, use the sales code FIX10, FIX10 to save 10% on your total purchase. Whether you go to their store in Lakewood, check them out at the Cleveland Indians team shops around Progressive Field, and so much more. GV Art and Design. It's not just a shirt, it's a statement.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
I've been a pro wrestler my whole life, so championship belts have always kind of been a way of life to me. But did you know title belts are quickly becoming the fastest rising and the most popular new way for people to celebrate all kinds of things you never would have thought of before? We use it for our fantasy football league. It's a really cool conversation piece. Office pools, employee of the month, you name it. There's tons of different trophies that you used to buy plaques for. Well, I'm here to tell you about Pro-Am Championship belts, who have the highest quality championship belt with the lowest prices. Replace those old trophies with stock belts on hand that they can customize for as low as $30. Any occasion, celebrations, awards, championships, fantasy leagues, gifts, plus wrestling, mixed martial arts, boxing. If you need championship belts, check them out. Pro-Am Championship belts, ProAmBelts.com. Look them up on Facebook, Pro-Am Belts. Trust me, nothing says cool like doing the discount double check with a real championship belt. Just ask Aaron Rodgers. Now you too can have one thanks to Pro-Am Championship belts.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck, home of the low price tire guarantee. QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Indian fever, it's catching fire with everyone. Indian fever.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix live here on the SportsFix.net. J-Rocc back with you guys. We're rolling in segment 2. Hey, don't forget, NFL fans, John McMullen from the Sports Network will be with us just about 15 minutes from now. Meanwhile, the phone lines are open, 216-539-7535, 216-539-7535, or you can keep the conversation going on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. As a matter of fact, before I get back into the conversation about the Indians, and by the way, wherever we leave off here, when John joins us, I'll pick back up even more Indians conversation when Dan Wismar joins us a little later. I know Cleveland sports fans that have just now kind of tuned into the Sports Fix maybe like, wow, they're going back to the Tribe again 3 times in one show. Yes, we do go to the well more than one time here. Believe it or not, I know it's bucking trends worldwide, baby. Welcome back in, guys. Seriously, though, before I get into that, all seriousness, Tony Maselli, my man in the Friends of the Sports Fix room here, just posted something interesting. I was looking at it during the break here. It was about the Cleveland teams. He did the math on the playoff appearances by each team, and it's pretty interesting. You know, I mean, it is what it is, because regardless, you've got to realize that these are over franchise careers. These are not the recent history, as we all know all too much. But the Indians franchise, 113 professional seasons, 11 playoff appearances, one every 10.1 seasons on average. The Browns, 28 playoff appearances since 1946, one in every 2 seasons on average. But that's amazingly slanted. Just like the Indians one is amazingly slanted to the present, that one is to the past, because as we know, 2 of those have come since 1999 or whatever. So one of those actually since 99, and only 2 in the 90s period, but since the 90s. But Cavaliers, 18 playoff appearances since 1970, one in every 2 seasons on average for that franchise there too. And you know what? That's one that you could say really since 1970, not the Cavs. Once they leveled off their playoff runs and the in-betweens until this last stretch were never rock bottoms. You know, they were, you know, like that run between the 80s teams and the LeBron teams. You had those Fratello teams. They always made the playoffs. They always were okay or good, but not better than good, and not great or anything like that. But it wasn't until this new era where instead of going through those seasons, it's now fashionable to blow up your franchise and make your fans sit through, 10 seasons of garbage so that they can enjoy the few seasons of what's left. But looking at this, and now here's an interesting thing, though. Looking at that Indian stat, you say 11 times in 113 seasons. It sounds like, wow. But take into consideration that up until the 90s, there was the old school formula. There were no wild cards. There was one team against one team. You know what I mean? There was the divisions. There was the East, and there was not 8 teams, 7 teams, whatever, making the playoffs here. You didn't have one game wild cards and other wild cards and all of this stuff, divisional rounds, all of that stuff that has been brought in. So that makes it a little bit different. But and actually Brian Fitzpatrick here on the page did a pretty good breakdown of that. Changed the Indians to 1993. They've made the playoffs 8 times, counting last season, since 1993. So the average is once every 3 years, which sounds a lot more fair than once every 10 years, because that's taken into consideration the fact that they went 30 years without a playoff appearance at one point between the World Series and the 90s. So that's a little more, but interesting. Feels like, these teams are just consistently bad. On average, once every 2 seasons for the Cavs, every 2 for the Browns, and every 3 for the Indians since the Progressive Field era, those teams have made the playoffs. It doesn't feel like it, though, for sure, but anyways, I just thought that was interesting. Thanks for the stat. I love it when you guys drop stuff like that on us, so keep doing that. I'm going to go to the phone lines here. I kept you waiting. We're going to talk some Indians, but first, we're going to go to the phones. Caller, you're up.
Good morning, J-Rocc.
Good morning. This is Bruce. What's happening, brother?
Hey, let me add a little bit to that stat right there.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the Indians, are, like you said, 2 every 10 years or whatever, up until 1981, even though the Yankees were the winningest team in baseball ever, the Indians were the second best team. We had the second most wins in the history of baseball up until, I believe, like 1971 or 72.
And you know what? That's a lot like the Browns. Like, you look at the Browns-Steelers thing, and it's kind of the same way. They built up such a big run in the early, decades, just like the Indians. Like, they had so many seasons where they were running neck and neck. They might have finished second. That's what I meant when I said there was only that one playoff spot. There wasn't the wild cards and stuff. So you could win 100 games and not make the playoffs if the Yankees won 101. You know what I mean? So,
right. I believe, 69 was the first time that we actually had a playoff format?
Right. So, you can see, but it's so slanted early because that makes sense. Because when you go through the 70s, obviously, it took a decade plus of losing badly to drop. But they stayed at second place during that decade is what I'm saying. It was kind of like how it just recently the Steelers have surpassed the Browns, like in the overall numbers of certain trends of that, but it was one long run of domination that it took a while to catch up to it, but those 70s and 80s are what killed the Indians. But I agree that it's more fair because of the wild cards and everything, to look at the Indians from 93 on. And I think the once every 3 years from 93 on, that average sounds about right. It's much better than once every 10 seasons,
It sure does. Sounds, if you look at it, from the overall picture.
And that'll show you how bad the Browns have been since 99, because even counting that, the Browns franchise averages making the playoffs every other season based on their total franchise, which is crazy when you think about the fact that we haven't done it since Lord knows when. You know what I mean? It's 2002.
Exactly. But you got to remember, too, in the 60s, they were either, 64, obviously, they won. But in the 60s, they were always 1-2, in the respective division. In the 70s, in the 80s, we had Brian Sipe. We had a good year, a bad year, a good year, a bad year,
yep.
And then, with Bernie came along, and we were consistent winners, and then it kind of dropped off, with the new era, but,
It's completely dropped off since. But, it's crazy that they've been this bad. Well, no, it shows you how good that franchise was for so long. And really, listen, we all get frustrated, and I know how you feel about the Browns, Bruce. I know how other people do, but it shows you that's why people still live and die with that team, especially the older fans, because they really were so good for so long that, it's just, and that's what's such a shame about the fans now. Any fan since 1999 has no reason to feel the way that we feel about the Cleveland Browns from our childhood and our growing up. You know what I mean?
You have to remember, though, I was a diehard Browns fan for years. I mean, I lived and died with, Brian Sipe and Bernie,
I know what you're saying, and I know your problems with the new Browns and the way everything is with the fans and the media. I know where you're coming from.
So, I mean, people don't take that into consideration. They just think I hate the Browns. That's not the actual truth. I mean, the truth is, that I don't like the way things are handled. I don't like the media hype. I don't like the fans saying, hey, we got a chance at the playoffs, and you got 3 wins, and there's 7 games to go. You're going to win them all? It's not going to happen. You got to be realistic. I mean, this isn't, Xbox, You can't make things happen overnight. But let me get to the tribe here a little bit.
Yeah.
Not that Tomlin pitched excellent. But our pitching staff, let's say for the most part, is really inconsistent. You don't know what you're going to get out of Masterson, who says he'll be ready on Tuesday. He hasn't been ready since spring training, so what makes you think Tuesday is going to be any different than anything else that he's put out there for us?
Let me jump in there because I was I was surprised. Well, I was surprised by that too. I heard him talking over the weekend about how much better he felt and how he's just ready to get out there and go. And I'm thinking, man, okay, and I know you can do a lot of rehab in 2 days. I'm not saying that, but man, how does it bother you all season long? And that 2 days was all it took to get you raring and ready to go. It just sounded a little too encouraging to me. Almost like
it's the competitive in him. It's not that, I mean, I got to realize that, you're sitting on that bench watching your guys out there every day play, and you want to be out there with them.
But I just thought, man, that's crazy. If all it took was 2 days off, you should have took them 2 days off 2 months ago. That's all I'm saying, man. We could have done it 2 months ago and had a little better of a stretch here. But we'll see. Hey, we'll see how he goes out there, But that's what I was saying, Bruce, exactly what you just said. Kluber and to a degree Tomlin, because really Tomlin, his last couple starts disappointed me when he got shelled a little bit because he was the other consistent guy. And Charles even said something in the chat room. I say it all the time. Tomlin is going to give you 6 or 7 innings. He's going to give up 2 or 3 runs 90% of the time. Obviously, the other 10%, he's either going to give you a 1-hit complete game or he's going to give up 8 runs in 4 innings and get shelled or whatever. But
okay, and we got to understand, though, that when Tomlin pitches, he's a strike thrower.
Right, which means he's going to get hit.
He deals with location.
Right.
Okay, he's consistently locating pitches. If he's off just a hair either way, he's going to get hit.
Right, that's the thing about him is you have to live and die with the fact that he's going to throw strikes and he's going to do his thing. Right. But when guys hit him, they're going to knock it out of the park. But the good thing that he does is
but he's not going to walk a small village,
That's what I was going to say is usually he keeps the bases clear so when he does give up the home run, it's of the solo type and not the group type,
Right. Now, on the other hand, you have T.J. House that pitched yesterday.
And he was doing well for a while, man. He was matching Hernandez yesterday. When he got out of that first inning, I was like, oh, okay.
Well, I actually called the home run because right after the swinging bunt that he threw down the right field line.
Oh, come on with the triple to the pitcher. Come on.
No, wait a minute. Now, you could see the frustration on his face, like, man, I just screwed that up. I can't, I can't let this get out of hand.
I'm just going to say this. Maybe you guys are going to say I'm being too hard, but it was House's fault. But I still think that Swisher short-armed it. I still think he alligator-armed that ball because it looked like he didn't even go for the ball. And I know that the runner was coming, and maybe he didn't want to get his arm. It sure seemed like he short-armed that ball. But it was a bad throw. Don't get me wrong. But I'm like, guys,
Swisher
can give
could have
up.
made more of an effort, I agree.
You turned a hit back to the pitcher into a triple, man. Come on.
And he was trying to bunt the pitch before that.
I know. Trust me, I know, man.
Oh, my God. And then when House got to the mound, he had that look on his face like I just screwed this up. I can't let it get out of hand. And he buzzed Cano. And
that woke him up,
and
man.
He said, it was like, oh my God, what did I just do, So I got to make sure this one's a little closer to the middle of the plate. And, I mean, it was down a little bit, but Cano's a low ball hitter anyway, so.
You watch the replay of that, and he's screaming as he hits the ball. He knew he got it. He was mad. He was mad when he hit that ball, and that was it.
Yeah, he flipped that bat away like, I knew I had that one.
And I hate to say this because I do believe that you fight until the last out, but, I mean, Felix Hernandez was locked in. I looked at Jerry, and I said, man, I said, unless they can get to the bullpen, that's your ball game right there because 2 runs is all he needs the way he's pitching today.
Yeah, and that's the first thing I put on the page yesterday was, you can't be embarrassed, only getting 1 hit off of King Felix, The guy's got 10 wins.
And you can't expect a guy like TJ House to match him for 8 innings. You got 5 innings out of him matching him step by step. You know what I mean?
Sure you did. You did.
And that's good. That's why I say, man, you see that, man, there's potential in all of these pitchers that they got. I don't know how many.
But they're still a year away.
That's the thing, is that for now, for us that are frustrated, hey, this is a playoff team, you got to get a vet. That's why I keep saying you got to get a guy. You don't got to get Cy Young in here. You just got to get a guy that's going to give you one more solid, consistent guy down the stretch. All the good playoff teams during that trading deadline pull off that trade for that pitcher that gets them through. Porcello, wasn't he that for the Tigers 2 years ago, I believe, where they went and got him at
Fister,
the end of the season.
I believe they made the trade with
Fister
Seattle, and he came in
that's who I was thinking of, Fister. Yeah, but
Fister solidified that pitching staff with that trade with Seattle.
I mean, it makes a big difference, and that's what the Indians are going to have to do more than a bat, because I believe offensively they've got enough. I mean, they go through their streak. That's the problem, is that they're streaky. So when they're hot, they're going crazy for a week and a half, and when they're cold, they're getting 1 hit and they're having bad, offensive performances. Now, I will say this. They've clearly been in a downward trend offensively the last 2 weeks because they've dropped in almost every offensive category. Where they were 5th and 6th in a lot of categories, they've dropped to 8th, 9th, and 10th. So while they're still in the top 10, you are now seeing the effect of some of those slumps on the guys. And look at it, though. All season, we've been saying this. It's a product of some guys hitting and then other guys hitting and then other guys hitting and never everybody at the same time. So that's why you look at the averages and you go, okay, well, but it's never everybody going. And the few times that it is when they go on those runs for a week or 10 days where they look unbeatable.
Right. If they don't score 5 runs or more, you could almost count them out. I mean, now with that being said, let me get to my next subject here.
Yes.
First off, Santana. Everybody said, that, he's in a slump, a year-long slump or whatever, and the only one that kind of was in his corner was Francona. And now he's like, I told you so, all you had to do was wait, So I'll give him that much.
He wasn't the only one. I remember somebody else said, leave my boy Santana alone. He'll hit.
I do remember that.
He will hit. He will hit.
Now, okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go. It's you.
No, I was going to say, with that being said, I'm not one to second-guess Tito at all, ever, but they got to do something with Swisher. He's not only not hitting the ball, but has he struck out 800 times in the last month?
800 times is a good estimate, Bruce. When he came up
he's
at
not
one point
even putting
yesterday,
the ball in play.
Yesterday, he came up at one point, and it said he was 1 of 8 in the series or something. And I looked at Jerry just like off the top of my head and quipped. I go, it seems like he's always 1 for something. Like, no matter when he comes up, he's always 1 for something. 1 for the series, 1 for the week, 1 for 50. I don't know. I'm telling you. And when Bruce is criticizing Nick Swisher,
yeah, I mean, that, I very rarely do that.
That's
but,
bad, because he likes Nick
it's
Swisher.
Time.
It is, though.
I mean, it's Cabrera, the night that he hit into 2 double plays and struck out twice, and he got back to the bench, and Tito said, well, at least he didn't hit into a double play, It's the same thing, I mean,
that's
it's the same thing with Swisher. You can't fault the guy, for doing something wrong when he's doing nothing at all.
Yeah, Swisher's just not. Yep, there you go. He's 1 for June. That sounds about right, Charles.
Yep, Charles nailed it right on the head.
But seriously, man, I'm with you. I love his attitude, but man, and I'll tell you what, he is quickly turning into public enemy number 1 on the Indians fan base. I mean, there's a whole lot less Brohio love than there was 15 months ago. He had a bad week or a bad month or even a bad season. He's had a bad Cleveland. And it's worse this year than any time in his career. I mean, all joking aside, is he going to hit? Because if not, how do you keep having that hole in your lineup?
And where can you put him? I mean, you dropped him down to, 7th or 8th now. You can't. What, you got to bat him last?
And the Indians are not the kind
pitcher.
The Indians are not the kind of team. Obviously, we talk about the Dolans being cheap. The Indians are not the kind of team to pick up a big portion of this salary if they were to try and trade Swisher. Because,
or even release him. You can't even release the guy because you owe him so much money.
Yeah. But, a team like the Red Sox, the Yankees, if they were going to make a trade right now, at least they could go, hey, Tampa, we'll give you, we'll eat $50 million of what's owed. You pay him just the other 10 or whatever, and they can do that. But for a fact that the Indians aren't doing that. So
yeah, we tried that with Sirianni last year. If we have the Cubs pick up an astronomical amount of his pay.
But talk to me, Bruce. Do you really think that the Indians will force him out there every day just because they're paying him all that money, even if it hurts the team? You've got to think that they'll reach a point where they stop doing that.
Right. You would hope at some time, because he's not even playing an adequate first base.
Right. That's the worst part, is you can't even go, well, he's giving us a steady glove over at first, because he's not doing that. So
I mean, the other night in the Tomlin one-hitter, he fielded that ground ball and threw it behind him. If it wasn't for Tomlin being an athlete and made a great snag on it, actually the ball was by him, he just kind of snagged it as it went by, that would have been a throwing error.
And you know what? I'm just going to throw this out there. He's having a red-hot season now, and I know that he wasn't great last year, but if Lonnie Chisenhall it was having Nick Swisher's year, he'd have never made it to see hitting 350. Fans would have been up in arms, and get this guy out. He can't field. He can't hit. He can't even put the ball into play. Honestly, no joking aside, right now, you cannot depend on Nick Swisher to just hit a sacrifice fly to get a guy in from third, because there's no guarantee he will put the ball into play. You know what I'm saying?
That's very true. You can't run and hit. You can't hit and run. You can't do anything with this guy at bat.
I mean, it's funny to joke and go, well, he's got it all. He's got the hot wife, and he's got all the money, and that's great. But, at the end of the day, you have to consider. I don't know when the Indians have that conversation, but they have to. I know it's going to take a while. They're not.
He may have the hot wife and the cute baby, but his bat stinks. That's one ugly ass swing. I hate to say it.
I mean, I'm just saying, if we got to sit through this, can we at least maybe get some calendars considered to be added to the promotional schedule?
Put his wife on a calendar and tap it out. Bro, Ohio. I'm ready to go.
No offense to Mrs. Garcia Swisher, but if we've got to watch him back, can we at least get like some benefit out of this or what? Like when he comes up, can we put her picture on the scoreboard?
On the
like,
scoreboard, I was going to say that to Curtis Sandberg the other day. Can we show
trade?
the wife?
I mean,
they have the same swing, you know?
At least if we have to watch him bat, can we get some pleasure out of it? No, I'm joking, and I am. I usually don't go after guys like this, but man, it's because that attitude that is so, hey, I love the whole carefree thing. That's great when things are going good. When things are going bad, sometimes it comes across like, I don't care. And even if that's not true, that's the way it comes across. And that face that he makes, my son and I have a running joke about that, just the looking strikeout by Swisher, how he just sits
It's like,
there.
who cut the cheese look?
And he leans his head back a little bit. He just stands there. He leans his head back a little bit. He can never believe. Now, somebody who struck out 800 times, how can you still not believe that you struck out? Because clearly you're getting used to it by now. Like, every time it's like, I can't believe that was strike 3. And then he looks up to the sky for a little bit. Then he takes a deep breath, turns around, and walks away like it was the most unbelievable third strike in the world. Yes, I watched the games.
The look.
That's
the
what he does.
Lenny Wilkins, I can't believe you didn't make that call look.
Oh, I did not
Remember
mean to do
that?
Maybe it's therapeutic. Maybe this is just gushing out of us here, this Nick Swisher thing, because I didn't mean to do this. I try not to go after individual players, but man, I mean, he's one for the season. I'm telling you, man. He's one for every situation. It's like, hey, what does he hit with runners in scoring position? One for something. I guarantee you, there's a one for out there. I love it. Anyways, what do you think happens?
Well, we don't got Kershaw.
Yes,
so
that worked out well looking at what happened yesterday, too, because he was balling yesterday, man.
But wait a minute now. Don't hit the ball hard off King Felix. We just hit it right at people.
Oh, I know.
mean,
I'm just saying. Any chance
all over the infield.
Any chance
mind
to
you, we didn't hit it out of the
Kershaw.
infield, but I mean, the line drives were in the infield. They were hard.
I still don't want to face Clayton Kershaw. That's all I'm
I
saying.
don't either. And
although we just missed, the baseball fans, we just missed by the gods, by the hair, a Kluber, Kershaw, a Kluber.
The baseball gods were looking down on us.
But if you're a baseball guy, Kluber and Kershaw would have been a hell of a matchup today had it worked out that way. That would have been a really good one. But I'll take it. I'll take Mr. Kershaw just missing the Indians this time around. Hopefully, 5 years from now, when we play the Dodgers again, we won't have to worry about Clayton Kershaw.
Okay, the key to this series, though, is getting to their bullpen.
Yes.
Because their middle reliever is Perez, and their closer is Wilson.
Our boy, who, by the way, he had some things to say.
So if we can get to their bullpen, we pretty much got this because, I mean, if we can score enough runs, we need at least 5 runs. But, if we can get to the bullpen, their bullpen is weak. So, I mean, even their closer, he only has to come in and basically Wilson comes in for 1 or 2 outs. He doesn't even work a full inning anymore.
And you know what? That's very, very, very probable tonight because Dan Herron, who we'll be facing tonight, he has not made it through the 6th inning in 3 of his last 4 starts. And the last time he pitched, he was out in less than 5 innings, his shortest of the season. Kansas City got to him for 4 runs in 4 innings. So he's definitely been in a bit of a slump lately, and that's something to keep an eye on there for sure, Bruce.
Okay, and tonight we can't be patient. He throws a lot of first pitch strikes. So if we can hop on the first pitch that he throws to each batter, and basically drill it somewhere, he's a very consistent first strike pitcher.
Yeah, and that's something to keep in mind, too. I mean, that's where you see, a lot of guys are effective doing that, and then you'll see a team, and I've seen the Indians do it from time up and swing at that first pitch, and all of a sudden, a guy who's been rolling for 5 innings has got, runners on the corners with no outs, and all of a sudden he's shaky, and then you can go ahead and strike. And as a matter of fact, they did that. I can't think of who they were facing, but it was a week or 2 ago. They had a game where the guy was on a roll, throwing first pitch strikes, and then boom, they swung at the first pitch, got a couple of guys on, fell apart from there. Indians took over. So
I watched them against the Braves, and that's what they did.
So
they waited till like the second time through the order, and everybody that came up swung at the first pitch.
And you know
and
what?
They scored like 9 runs.
Something else I want to point out, too, is, you know what? If we're going to sit here and bury on Nick Swisher, I'm just going to drop this, too. David Murphy, he is 1 for his last 40. He definitely is in what you would call a slump and needs to get going. Now, that being said, he hits very well when Herron is pitching. He's 9 for 24 with 2 home runs against him, so he's definitely successful. As Drupal Cabrera and Carlos Santana, only a combined 3 for 36 in their careers against Dan Herron, though. So there's good and bad in this matchup here. Luckily for the Indians, Corey Kluber on the other side of the mound here, so it should be a good one and a chance to win the first game of the series, which is always big.
Right, and the thing about Murphy is that he's always been a streaky hitter. He hits in streaks, and he always puts the ball in play.
Absolutely.
So, you know, he's gonna put the ball in play. He's gonna move somebody somewhere, even though he's gonna be out. Somebody's moving. So, you know, I mean that's a plus to being 0 for 40 is that you're at least putting the ball somewhere where somebody's either moving up a base or somebody scored.
I'm with you, Bruce. My man, I got to get to the break.
Not a problem.
Thanks for the call.
I will talk to you later, J-Rocc.
It is always fun talking Indians with you, Bruce.
Thanks.
Oh, I thought he was done talking. I'm sorry, Bruce. We're going to take a break. I didn't mean to hang up on him. I thought he was done. It was the 3-second pregnant pause. I said, okay, line's clear. Sorry about that, Bruce. Thanks for the call. We're going to take a break. When we come back, John McMullen from the Sports Network joins us next.
And touch them all, a moment in the sun. It's gone and you can't tell that one goodbye. Oh, put me in cold, I'm ready to play.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into
The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Before we go to the break, guys, I want to talk to you just a second about our friends at GV Art and Design. Baseball's here once again. Cleveland, of course, excited, and GV Artwork teaming up with the Indians, and they're both going to knock it out of the park this season. And listen to some of the new designs they've got for Cleveland baseball fans everywhere. They've dug out an old classic, and they're bringing the heat with the new Wild Thing, Give 'em the Heater Ricky design. GV Artwork is teaming up with Cleveland fan favorite Michael Brantley and created a custom Dr. Smooth t-shirt. Plus, don't forget, they've got the Cleveland That I glove collection, new tribal and Cleveland That I love designs for women, and so much more. You can get GV Artwork designs on the website, gvartwork.com. And don't forget to use the sales code FIX10. That's FIX10, and you'll save 10% on your purchase. Or you can check out their new store in Lakewood on Detroit Avenue. Check them out in the Indians team shops and so much more. Cleveland That we all love, GV Art and Design. It's not just a shirt, it's a statement.
It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your automotive car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. They're open late Monday through Thursday until 9 p.m. and open early Saturday so you can check it off your to-do list and get on with your day. They also have a newly remodeled service lounge and additional service bay just for Quick Lane oil changes. Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck is located at 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 Bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 Bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck. That's QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
News break.
I'm Christine Lisi. At this hour, the Nets are mulling over an offer that could send coach Jason Kidd to the Bucks. Milwaukee's offering a second-round pick in next year's draft, but Brooklyn wants a first-round, reports ESPN's Mark Stein. A decision on whether or not that deal will be made will happen in the next 24 hours. He'll have a lot of flexibility once free agency tips off at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Tuesday, with LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade all opting out of their contracts. They've been discussing financial terms of new contracts with Miami among themselves. Belgium will make a decision today on whether injured captain Vincent Kompany plays against the U.S. at the World Cup tomorrow, 3:30 Eastern on ESPN and ESPN Radio. NFL, the agent for free agent defensive tackle Johnny Jolly told the Green Bay Press-Gazette he's been cleared by doctors from spinal fusion surgery. Packers coach Mike McCarthy said he has not closed the door on bringing back Jolly for the 2014 season. Angels first baseman Albert Pujols has been playing with a swollen lymph node in his left groin since Wednesday. Pujols said he's pretty sure it'll be all right and was told it's one of those things that should just go away.
Hurry into Lowe's for July 4th savings. Get Kingsford char $9.88 and save 5% on everything you need with your Lowe's consumer credit card. All through 6/30. Lowe's, never stop improving.
You're listening to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back into the Sports Fix. Yeah, whistle while you work, baby. Welcome back in. J-Rocc with you here as week's coming up here just around the bend. Welcome back in. J-Rocc with you here as we roll on. Thanks for being with us. Whether you're listening live on the sportsfix.net, the home base, whether you're on TuneIn, the TuneIn radio application worldwide, on Spreaker, on Mixler, on digital delay 24/7, on iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider. Perhaps you're listening on SoundCloud and Spreaker and iTunes and CarPlay or any other platform. Welcome into the show. As I said, I'm J-Rocc, and you are with me, and we are going to go to the phones in a minute and talk to my man John McMullen from the Sports NFL and Browns News. You guys keep the conversation going. Can't get on the phones, but you can get on Facebook and Twitter all day long. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. I was going to mention it like when we had a lull in the show here about that Jason Kidd thing. You know, never mind the fact that Milwaukee has a coach. Like when those stories started coming out over the weekend, I'm going, this is the really cool part of sports, where the team that already has a coach who's sitting at home seeing these reports is going, hey, well, that's cool that Jason Kidd wants the Bucks job, but last I checked, my business card says Bucks head coach. But hey, who's to let that get in the way of a business transaction? So I just get a kick out of it. Man, it just goes to show you, man, there's no loyalty in sports anymore, man. Welcome back in, guys. Let's go to the phones. I just got a kick out of that because I'm thinking, man, somewhere at home, somebody's going, hey, boss, is this my job we're talking about here? Wait, is this another Bucks? Wow, man, but anyways, hey, you know what? All seriousness, it's because the guy that bought the team was not his agent, but I think he was Jason Kidd's money manager or something like that, and there's a connection there, and the Nets are done after one season with the Jason Kidd show anyway, which I don't blame him. I'm sorry. In my opinion, Jason Kidd was not ready for that job. The only reason that team turned around is because it had a veteran-laden team. Seriously, I mean, that's the way I look at it. There's no way you can credit Jason Kidd for that. Jason Kidd was a disaster. But all right, guys, go into the phone lines. We'll talk more about that later. Let's talk some Browns, some NFL. Let's talk to my man John McMullen from the Sports Network. John, how you doing this afternoon?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Jerry.
Well, thanks for being here as always, and I know you used to be an NBA guy too, but I just get a kick out of that when that first report trickled out about the Jason Kidd maybe interested in job. I'm going, yeah, well, so is the guy that already has it, but you got to love how that stuff happens,
Yeah, well, if you're looking for a new coach, you're looking to get rid of the old coach. That's the nature of sports. So, but yeah, generally you don't want to keep a guy on while you're actively pursuing another coach. It's generally the more professional thing to let a guy go so he understands his process. But, for whatever reason, anytime you trade for a coach, it's kind of strange no matter what sport it's in.
What do you do?
Especially when you have a guy like Jason Kidd who goes right from the floor to be a head coach, it's always strange, and we're seeing it again with Derek Fisher in the NBA. But the Bucks like him and give him credit. They went out and they did the deal.
Well, my trip was I think it's too late for this now, but what if the thing fell through? I'm thinking there's the best part, is these teams are negotiating a trade. What if the trade falls through? Then how do you go back to the coach and go, hey, well, no hard feelings. You're still our guy,
Well, yeah, that's the strange part of it, and that's the difficult part. I guess at the end of the day, you say, well, there's only 30 of these jobs, so, you take it or leave it. So it's not easy to... But it's not, and obviously they had a horrible season, so
of course
it's not like you're firing Red Auerbach. But yeah, it is strange. But maybe there's a reason why bad teams are bad, and maybe that's one of the reasons.
Do you think Jason Kidd, like you heard what I said before I brought you on, I know we're going to talk some football, but do you think, being a basketball guy too, do you think I'm right, or do you think I'm too harsh on Jason Kidd? I truly don't think that you credit him for straightening the ship. I think it was what you get when you got Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett and these guys that have been to the dance that right the ship and go, hey, we know how to play ball, because that thing was a circus for the first, 2 months.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue. I mean, the NBA's always been a players' league more than a coaches' league. So if you have talent, eventually it's going to come to the forefront. But I don't have as big as a problem with guys leaving the floor and becoming coaches as other people do, simply because if you think about any industry, and I use it this way, whether it be my industry or your industry. If you spend 15 years interning at a radio station, that's considered experience. Why isn't playing in the NBA for 17, 18 years like Jason Kidd considered an experience? It certainly is, and I don't agree with that. Has no experience as an NBA head coach thought process, because nobody understands the NBA game better than Jason Kidd. But the most difficult part in basketball, and I cover that league for a long time, is managing personalities. That's the aspect you have to learn, and that's where he stumbled a little bit at the forefront. But if there's a higher basketball IQ than Jason Kidd, I haven't come across it. So I think he's going to be fine as a head coach moving forward. And obviously, there's people who have a lot of respect for him in that league. For the fact that this is his second coaching job and his second year out of the NBA. Yeah, And I'll tell you what, too, the whole reason that happened is because he made that play, which is what is happening. You just talked about how, we say the NBA, players affect the game individually more than anything else, than any of the other sports, because there's less of them, so they each have more of an impact, and it's more individualized. That's why you see a guy, whether it's Jason Kidd or somebody else, after 1 year on the job and seeing the problems that he had with players, going back to management and saying, and you can take this across any sport, going back to management and saying, I want additional
titles, additional responsibilities, because I want more leverage. I want these guys to know that I'm the guy, and that it's more of a hammer you yield. It's more ability to control your roster, and it's the only kind of control, especially in the NBA, that coaches can get, is to get that, whether you want to call it director of basketball operations, whether you want to call it president, whatever. They all have different titles, but it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, anytime you have more power, obviously, but at the end of the day, there's nobody that's ever going to have more power than the star of the team in the NBA.
I agree.
We'll use LeBron.
Agreed.
LeBron for an example. So to me, the biggest issue, and this is what Phil Jackson's done so well over the years, is managing those egos, and you do it however you have. Because, I've talked to so many people in the NBA, and if, for instance, if you're down one with 5 seconds left, and you want somebody, an X's and O guy, to draw up a great play, Phil Jackson's going to be 75th on your list. He's just not an X's and O's guy. But who's got the 11 rings?
Right.
It's about handling personalities, it's about managing, and it's about getting, people like Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal to play together, and not, strangle each other. So, I think that's the bigger issue, when you're talking about great NBA teams for head coaches, is they have to manage it. And in theory, again, nobody should know how to do that better than a guy like Jason Kidd, who's been a star at the NBA level for so long. But sometimes it takes a little time before you get the right mix of people. And maybe he understands how to get the right mix, but you have to go about getting it.
Right, and that could be part of it too. I mean, clearly there was something learned by him where he made that request for additional responsibility and power to where he thought that would put him in a better situation. Oh, it'd be interesting to see. Let's talk a little football here. One thing I know right off the bat, I mean, especially if you go on Twitter, I follow a ton of different people in Cleveland, and interesting to see some people's reaction to the reports, which I think is a no-brainer to me, about the Browns looking to get something done here before camp or during camp with Brian Hoyer. He is coming up on a free agent year, and I think it's nuts that people are trying to read one thing or another into this. Number one, for those that think that the Brian Hoyer as our quarterback thing is just lip service by the Browns, it's not. And I think nationally, we've talked about it, people are coming to that realization. But whether he's a starter or a backup, he's a part of your, you would like to be able to keep him a part of the plans for the next couple of seasons. So to me, it's a no-brainer to sit down with the kid and try to come up with something. Now, whether he's interested, depending on, of signing a commitment when he's not sure how much of a commitment you're going to make to him, I think that's more the tricky part than the fact that the Browns want to do it.
Yeah, from the Brown side of things, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
He's he's a professional guy. He's come up through the ranks, been a third string to a second string to a first string quarterback. He doesn't have that, massive star type ego. They want him to teach Johnny Manziel how to be a professional. It makes all the sense in the world from the Brown standpoint. That being said, it makes no sense for Brian Hoyer, none whatsoever.
None.
Especially, you mentioned the quotations. He's way ahead in the quarterback competition. So, if he gets a chance to start this season and plays well, that means, if you're looking at the NFL as a whole, it's a quarterback-driven league, obviously, and there's not 32 starting caliber quarterbacks playing at a high level. So if he's able to prove that he deserves to be in that top 32, well, that's a heck of a lot more money that he's going to make as a backup in Cleveland. So to me, it makes no sense for Brian Hoyer to talk about an extension. It makes all the sense in the world for the Browns to want to engage in those talks. But I just think he's almost has to be, and I'm sure his agent is telling him that. He almost has to, wait and sit back and see how things go, because he's got a chance to cash in if everything goes well. And I'm sure he has confidence in his ability and wants to prove he can be a starter in this league.
Exactly, and I'm kind of with you. My thought was, if I'm him and his agent, let's just sit back and see how things play themselves out for a while first, and then it makes it a lot easier. Because I do know that his parents, his family's even come out and said that, in conversations that, looking ahead to the future, apples to apples, if you're talking backup to backup, he'd rather stay here in Cleveland in the future. But if you're talking about backup here in Cleveland to starter somewhere else, then obviously, as anybody would, he's going to want to chase that opportunity and follow it where he can go. So, and I'm sure that, and like you said, when I saw some people questioning, wow, oh man, it amazes me how much, and it's just the reactionary fan. I say this all the time, but it amazes me how much people fool themselves into some of the things that they see a mob on social media or on just their friends follow. So many people convinced that John Manziel walks all over Brian Hoyer and becomes the man in the NFL from day one. And I'm going, man, do you know how rare, not even just him, do you know how rare what you just said is? I'm not just talking about becoming the starter, but some people just have such unrealistic expectations of things, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's be honest, from both sides. I mean, anytime you draft a quarterback in the first round, and that's whether it's, Blake Bortles, say, is number 3 overall, Johnny, at number 22, or go down to Teddy Bridgewater at 32. If you take a quarterback in the NFL in the first round, you expect him to eventually be the starter in your organization. There's no question about that. The second part of that is there are no more 5-year plans in the NFL. If you stumble for 2 years now and you're a head coach or a general manager, you're going to, especially, you saw it in Cleveland, a guy had 1 year as the head coach. There are no long-term plans in the NFL anymore. So it's about getting ready for him. It's about getting him ready to play. And there's no question about that. And there's no question that the Cleveland Browns want him to be the starting quarterback. There's absolutely no question about that. And anyone who disagrees that doesn't understand the NFL. That said, that doesn't have to be Brian Hoyer's mindset. He can play in week 1, be the starter, continue to play well. And, if they're winning and they're successful, nobody's going to take him out. So he's got a chance to handle his own business because it all comes down to wins and losses at the end of the day. And if he's successful, nobody's going to take the job away from him. That's just not how the NFL works. So you can see both sides, and if I'm Brian Hoyer and you believe everything coming out of Cleveland, it's the fact that he's way ahead at this point. We've talked about Johnny ad nauseum about not doing the off-the-field stuff, and I think that's coming to fruition. And, he's not doing everything humanly possible to get ready to take over this team in week 1. And that means Brian Hoyer's going to get his chance. And if he continues to play well, he'll stay in there. But, all that being said, there's no question, once the Browns made that pick, you understand that their thought process was, let's get this guy ready to play quarterback for the Cleveland Browns.
And speaking of that, let me just ask you my thought as we sit here looking at the beginning of July, a few weeks away. They'll start getting ready to come in and report for camp. Just my thought is, and you tell me if you agree, but I'm thinking if truly the Browns are pretty sure, and I'm sure the first couple weeks they'll make that decision, that Hoyer's going to start the season. To me, I don't think Hoyer plays minimally or at all, or I don't want to say at all, but I don't think you need to play him in the preseason. I think at that point it behooves you much more to play both of the young guys. And I'm talking about Johnny Football and Connor Shaw there. But John Manziel does need to get reps against number ones. He needs to play real defenses and real defenders, even if it's in crappy vanilla NFL preseason games. So I think the more you see of him in the preseason, it verifies that Hoyer is going to be the guy, because they already know that Hoyer can step in and just play with the guys like he showed last year. He stepped in with minimal reps and became the starter. So I think they know and they can use that. We've always said, at least I have, and I think you too, that having Brian Hoyer made it that much more feasible to do John Manziel and have this, because of there's another reason why right there, because you've got a guy that you can plug and play, which lets you give more time to the guy that needs it.
Well, yeah, and that's how the NFL is in nature now. It's gone that way. If you think about it, if you think of the process, you think about the first game, your starters might get a series or two. Second game, they might get a quarter. Third game, they might play into the third quarter. And the fourth game, they're not going to play at all. That's just the nature of the way the NFL is going, and generally, that's the playbook everybody uses to try to limit injuries as much as possible. And there's been so much, talk about, the off season and the 2011 CBA and the lack of tackling and the lack of practice time. And so teams have kind of embraced it and said, well, if we can't do this anyway, we might as well put the starters in bubble wrap. So, and you're right, anytime you have a rookie quarterback, I mean, you want to get him as many reps as possible. So I would expect him to get the majority of reps in the preseason for the Browns. And, he's got to catch up. It's clear he's behind, and it's clear that, no matter what they say publicly, things haven't been privately. So the Browns want to get him pointed in the right direction. But, I don't think it's time to say that, the Browns have, bailed on Johnny Manziel. No, clearly he's the future of that organization, as I said. And everything moves forward with the mindset of him eventually becoming the quarterback. But again, you say it again and again and again. If you play well enough, look at Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady. Nobody expected Tom Brady when Drew Bledsoe got hurt and say, well, he's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback and win 5 quarterbacks of all time. He came in, he played so well, he never left. That's always an opportunity. And you're talking about a 6th-round pick. You're talking about the 199th pick of the NFL draft. No, he was not earmarked for success. He took his opportunity. He ran with it. It doesn't happen very often in this league, but it can happen.
I'll tell you, I was joking with a buddy over the weekend. I said, man, some of the internal, just people that, inside the Browns. I said, because and I know this because I was told this by somebody, but, there were, and anybody knows that, there's people that say yay and nay on everything. The people inside Berea that were on the let's not draft that guy was, for the things that we talked about, the distractions, the media, all of that stuff. I was joking with another guy, a radio guy. I was like, man, there's got to be some fun, back and forth between those guys, just in this whole process as these stupid stories keep coming out and stuff, because that there's guys going, see, this is kind of why I didn't want to do this. And other guys going, well, wait until he'll get smart. And I'm sure the same kind of conversations that fans are having, the ones that are for it and against it, are happening internally in Berea. It's kind of comical. I mean, you put yourself in that situation, so I kind of get a kick out of that, thinking that they're having those exact same discussions that the fan base out there is having.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that the people who, and in essence, now the whole organization's on board, they have to be concerned. Yeah. We've talked about it from day one. I mean, you could
Haslam. That's
you can pay. You can pay all the lip service you want. It's if you're not concerned, you're not human. That's been my take on this from day one. And that's not, I understand all the Johnny Manziel supporters, and I always, no matter what show I'm on, no matter how many times I'm asked about him, I make sure to say he's done nothing wrong.
Right.
He's not been, and in a league where there's a lot of guys who do things wrong, he's not one of them. But I also point out the other side and the realization that the Browns are right to be concerned, because I say it all the time. You can compare it, and people say Josh Gordon and bring it up. Well, that's not, there's a difference between quarterback and wide receiver. There just is. You're the face of the franchise. Everyone looks to you. You're the leader of the brand on the field. You're going to be under a microscope. And nobody understands that better than Johnny Manziel because he went through it in college. He was the highest profile player in college football. People never stop writing about him and talking about him. He understands it. And that's why maybe it's more of a concern, because if anybody in this country realizes what he was in for, it should have been Johnny Manziel, and he should have an understanding of it. And that, to me, at least in the back of my mind, is a little red flag, because you understand there's going to be people looking for this, and you understand people are taking pictures of you. You understand the social media culture, and you're still doing this stuff.
Well, not just that. There's a difference between people taking pictures of you and you sticking your tongue out at people and doing it yourself, which was kind of my point, was what the end of what you said. When you're being defiant about it, and I get that part of being young and all of that, but that's the part that makes you go, oh, man, you'd be so much well served just to back off just a little bit and just lay low. But, hey, I get it. I was feisty too, and I understand that part as well. It'll be interesting to see. You brought up Gordon. Josh Gordon, I wanted to ask you something that I was thinking about over the weekend, and I said, I can't wait to get John on just to ask you on Monday. So I'm going to lay it on you. Do you think there's any possibility, just wondering, do you think there's any possibility that there is some smoke to the fact that maybe Josh Gordon is not suspended by the NFL? Because we keep talking about what's taking so long. I'm just curious, because there's no way really for us to know, because nothing can be formally announced. But since nothing was ever formally announced, is it possible that there may not be a suspension coming? I don't think that's true, but I figured it'd be something we could talk about.
I think it's possible it could be downgraded. I think that's a possibility, and you saw that last year. The last time he was suspended, it was downgraded. I think that part of it is, and especially because the NFL has had trouble with testing procedures in the past. I think that's the tack that the Gordon camp is taking behind the scenes and trying to fight this. We all know that's a wink technicality argument, but the bottom line is you do everything possible to try to get yourself a lesser penalty. Obviously, there's not only his career involved, but also a significant amount of money. So you expect his camp to do everything possible. So I think that aspect of it's certainly a possibility. But for as a whole, if you think it's going to be completely overturned and there's going to be no suspension whatsoever, I would be stunned if that were the case. I think that is a little too much to ask. And by the way, if it gets knocked down or there's some kind of at least more desirous outcome for Josh Gordon, then you have the second part of the conversation, was that do the Cleveland Browns as an organization want anything to do with this guy anymore? And that's got to enter the conversation also.
Yeah, I think they do. I do. The feeling that I get is they're incredibly exasperated from people I talk to, but I do feel that at the end of the day, I think the preferential outcome is to go forward with him, but I don't think that they internally see that as a foregone conclusion anymore. I think that's very much up in the air. I mean, of course, the talent, they want to keep him, but I wondered, not so much being overturned. That's why I figured I'd ask you. I'm like, man, with this thing taking so long, and the fact that it's the only one left outstanding, and that there wasn't an appeal yet filed, which was the part that's got me scratching my head. I'm going, man, unless there's nothing to appeal. Like, I was wondering if maybe there things had changed behind the scenes, and who knows? I guess until there is verification, then we'll find out, But remember, even though we liked Ray Farmer's draft, there was all the questions of why they didn't take a wide receiver, and maybe they knew something that we didn't know. And it just makes me wonder if all this drama and this stalling and everybody else's, am I wrong about that? But I think every other suspension and punishment and appeal has all been activated, and there's nothing like hanging out there, right? He is the lone kind of island right there right now, right?
Well, maybe there's a lot of Ray Rice, Alden Smith, Greg Hardy. There's a lot of behavior.
No. I simply mean the drug suspensions. That's all I was talking about, was the drug failures and suspensions and appeals. Like, there's not any other like Josh Gordon right now out there where they're waiting or any of that on the drug suspensions, right? Everything has been.
Well, there's as you go through the suspensions, I mean. The higher profile ones, obviously, Darrell Washington accepted his suspension. He's gone for a year. Justin Blackmon, obviously, going back to last year, it's indefinitely. You always have guys getting suspended for 4 games. They generally go through the appeal process. The problem is it's secretive, and it's secretive on purpose. Both sides are not supposed to talk to it. Now, when you talk about high-profile players like Gordon and Washington and Blackmon, things always leak, and that's why you hear about it before. Some of the lesser players you don't hear about, and they go through the process. And we've talked about this before, and one of the issues I have with the whole policy in general is the fact that it's so secretive, because you do not have access. We can't get access by design, and we constantly see it. I remember a number of years ago when you saw all those Saints and Vikings suspended for the Star Caps episode. It was very, very late in the season, and both teams were in the playoff hunt. So the first and foremost, you go to yourself, why at this time? Why not early in the season when it wouldn't have had an impact on the playoff hunt? So all these questions are always asked, and the bottom line is we don't have the answers to them because we can't get the answers, and no one's allowed to talk about the answers. So when you say there hasn't been an appeal process and this and that, you can hear certain leaks at certain times, but no one knows for sure. Well, the Browns have been informed, obviously, that he's going to be suspended for an entire year, and that's how they went forward, and that's why after the draft they made they signed the 2 veteran guys, and obviously Earl Bennett's already gone, but they had to move forward, and that was one of the things we all talked about with Ray Farmer, with Sammy Watkins sitting there, and you understanding that at the very least, Josh Gordon's going to be gone for a significant amount of time. Was it a prudent decision to pass up on a player like that? And then make the move down and get Justin Gilbert. But
hey, John,
he's going to face questions about that, moving forward and continuously. And obviously, hindsight will be the ultimate judge of that decision. But yeah, I mean, it would be too much pie in the sky to ask for, as I said, no suspension whatsoever. It's going to be a significant suspension, and I'm sure the tack they're trying to take is the tack that has worked in the past for guys like Von Miller to get suspensions reduced, was testing procedures and things like that.
But, a question for you. Now, maybe you don't know this. Now, we don't know the date that the suspension people were notified or anything, but you might know league policy better than I do. Obviously, the holdup people say is the fact that an appeal has not been filed yet. Is there a time limit in the CBA, in this thing, for Josh Gordon? Like, does he have 30 days, 90 days, 60 days to file his appeal? Because the suspension hasn't even been announced. My thought is, how long can he draw that out? Like, can we get to the season? Does he have enough time? How long can he draw out waiting to file the appeal? Is there a time limit?
I would have to delve deep in the CBA to find that out. There definitely has to be a time limit on the actual appeal, right, when you have to notify you're going to appeal. There's definitely a time limit on that. I'm not sure, if it's, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, what have you. But yeah, you cannot draw it out. Now, the problem, what gets drawn out, and, I've written extensively about the Star Caps issue, what gets drawn out is is the actual process of the appeal. In that case, it went very far. It went to court. It went to federal court. It got overturned. It kept going through the process. So that's why that one took so long. Generally, obviously, it's very one-sided. The arbitrator is obviously appointed by the NFL side, and it's NFL controlled. So when you see things, that are taken out for a very, very long period of time, it generally involves legal processes and legal ramifications. So you'll know about that. If there's any way Josh Gordon is going to play in the NFL this year, it will most likely be because he is suing the league and he's taking them to court.
That's what I was about to
ask.
That
kind of aspect is exactly what happened in the StarCap situation, where guys like Kevin Williams and Pat Williams were allowed to play because it was going through the court. The court had gotten injunction, and they were able to continue to play. It eventually ended up with them being suspended anyway, but it took a tremendous amount of time.
That's what I was about to ask you. We are, a little over 2 months, maybe a couple weeks over that, of the start of the season. Clearly talking about this and the fact that there's still that the appeal hasn't been filed, and that is where the time is taken as well. There's clearly a likelihood that Josh Gordon could be playing for the Browns in week 1 because things either have not finished or, as you said, are in the full-blown suing the league / appeal process. So how likely is it that Josh Gordon may end up still being a part of the early season plans for the Browns?
I would think at this stage, again, unless he decides to sue the league and unless he decides to go that route, I think that would be the only route where he would be playing for the Browns in week 1.
Okay.
I don't think it's gonna extend past that if it's a normal appeal procedure. Nor do I think the Browns would want that, because if they do plan on bringing him back,
right, it goes into the next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think the only way that would happen is if it goes that route and he decides to sue the league and attempt to beat the suspension and play this season.
Those are some things that I thought of, and I've actually gotten a couple of emails in the last week or so saying, hey, man, you think maybe, so I say, this is something good to talk about here. The other thing I want to notice on the way out the door, we talk about sometimes bad media and rush to judgment and stuff. These people always looking to make a name. This is why you be careful. We saw the Colin Kaepernick stuff. Did you see, I'm sure you have, it's your job, the Aqib Talib stuff out of Dallas? Where he may be suing the police force, but the police captain, the police major as they call it there, had the wrong Talib. He had his brother, but he went on Twitter because he wanted to break it right away that he had the NFL player that had been arrested, and it turned out that he didn't do the research, but he left the tweets up for a couple of weeks, and they're gone now, actually. I went and checked right before the show to see if they were still on the Twitter account, but I thought, man, that's not a reporter. That's a police captain who jumped so quick to go online and say, look at us. We arrested an NFL player, and the damage that does to a guy's reputation, earning potential, whatever you want to call it, when it turns out to be so completely wrong. And then the fact that it came from the police.
Yeah, there's no question. It was incredibly unprofessional by the Dallas Police Department. And we always talk about, social media and how it affects players, but it affects everybody. It affects companies, and because it's this, once you tweet something, as you mentioned, Jerry, it's out there, and to do something that unprofessional and get the wrong Talib is incredibly, and I hope the person who did it certainly deserves to be reprimanded and things like that. Possibly lose their job because it is very serious. As far as I feel bad for Aqib Talib, and obviously he's had some legal issues in the past. So people jump to conclusions and say, "Oh, there he is again," and obviously he did nothing wrong. I feel bad for him. I don't know what he can do. I hope the Dallas Police Department apologizes. They already have, but in a more significant way. The problem is when you're a public figure, and anybody in journalism knows, it's very difficult to prove libel, mainly because, there has to be malice behind it, and I think it's very difficult to make the case that the Dallas, Police Department actively, acted, maliciously towards Aqib Talib. They didn't. They made a horrible mistake. It's an embarrassing mistake for that department, obviously. But again, to call it libelous is probably a stretch. But I feel bad for him, and I hope they certainly apologize in a significant way. But I'm not sure he has much legal recourse other than to point out on his own how unprofessional the Dallas Police Department was.
I just wanted to bring it up. What we talk about points out social media, the danger of it all on the opposite side, too. But as we go, reports just now coming out of Milwaukee that Larry Drew has been told he will be fired in Milwaukee so that they can hire Jason Kidd. I joke about the headlines because obviously behind the scenes he knew before now, but you look at the headlines in the news, everything else was done first, and then it's like, oh yeah, we kind of got to let the guy know that he's
fire
not
the
gonna be
kid
here anymore, So they have now at least told him, hey, we're going to go in a different direction. But anyway, the headline made me laugh. Larry Drew's finally been told that he's fired in Milwaukee. He's been sitting there all weekend like, man, this isn't cool, man. Come on, what's going on here? John McMullen from the Sports Network. It's always fun getting a chance to talk to you, man. Couple of weeks here, and business is really going to pick up in the NFL.
Yeah, it never stops, really, though. So,
no, but
we always got something to talk about.
It's training camp time coming up now here. What are we, 3 weeks away for most people? 3.5 weeks, somewhere in that area there. It's Madden time. It's all of that, man. It's football time when you start waiting for Madden season to come out there, baby.
Yeah, it's always football time now. June, it's football time.
Are you a video game guy? You a Madden guy or no?
Not really. I'm not. I'm old school. I don't think I would have gotten as far as I have in life, and some people would argue that's not that far. But playing video games, I sit. I shake my head at some of the time people waste playing this game.
You know what? I'll be honest with you though. I'm not a gamer per se as far as the sports games I can get into, I guess, because I'm a sports guy. But other than that, I'm with you. I'm not into the whole fantasy adventure stuff. But
NBA,
anyways, John McMullen from the Sports Network.
Kidd.
Thank you. I have no idea who's talking to me there, but. News headline about Jason Kidd. There you go. Thanks, John McMullen. Every Monday he's with us. I look forward to talking to you next Monday, my man.
All right, thanks for having me.
All right. Always a good time, and you guys can follow John on Twitter at JF McMullen. Man, Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan. I think he's out there, and I think he's coming up next. Let's take a break. We'll be right back as the Sports Fix rolls on, baby.
We here at the Sports Fix are very in-depth when we interview the sports stars.
Oh, I saw the whole thing, dude. First you were all like, whoa, and then we were like, whoa, and then you were like, whoa. What are you talking about? You got serious thrill issues, dude. Oh, awesome.
Maybe not, but you should still listen.
As we head into this break, I just want to remind you the Sports Fix proud to be partners with Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck, 5715 Canal Road, just under the 480 bridge in Valley View, Ohio. Bill Hershey and Bill Opalich, I tell you about them each and every day. They'll take care of you. Number one, huge Cleveland sports fans, but they're good people, hardworking people, trustworthy people. I don't just come on here, I tell you this all the time, I don't just come on here and talk about places and people that want to buy advertising on the show. I talk about people and products that I believe in, and Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck is one of those places. Whether you've got a truck, car, van, commercial vehicle, big or small, it doesn't matter. They'll fix them all. They're the home of the low price tire guarantee. Find a matching set of tires cheaper anywhere else, and they'll match the price, guaranteed, no questions asked, no matter what it is. Hey, and they understand in 2013 that there's transportation issues. People need to get to school, to work, to daycare. All those things need to get done, and the car needs to get fixed, and they'll figure out a way to make that happen for you. Check them out, quicklane.com/Valley Ford Truck, and find out that life really is better in the quick lane.
Hey, Cleveland, this is Ed Doherty, voice of St. Ignatius Wildcat football, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
In baseball, miracles can happen when a team works together.
2 out, bottom of the ninth, down to their last strike.
The same is true in the fight against cancer. That's why MLB has teamed up with Stand Up to Cancer. Because we believe that when we all stand up together,
41,000 on their feet,
we can make cancer history.
Now everybody's standing. What a buzz in this building.
This is beyond a dream. Stand up with MLB at standuptocancer.org.
The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix.
At the corner of Carnegie and Ontario, it's basketball time at the Q.
Have you gotten your copy of Cleveland's Finest yet? Highlighting the best moments, players, and media members in Cleveland sports history?
He won it! Elo hit a three-pointer on the sideline!
In-depth personal interviews with some of the top names in Cleveland sports fill the pages of this incredible book.
Joe Day,
Fred McLeod, Hector Marinero.
Discussing the most intimate and sometimes controversial details of the largest moments in our town's sports history.
The Indians have won the divisional title.
A perfect game for Len Barker.
What a win for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Their first time in a playoff.
It's the first book written from the player's point of view, with the media that covered it and the fans that watched. Finally, the true stories are told. From a miracle in Richfield to the NBA Finals.
The Detroit Pistons have been booby-trapped.
From a perfect game to a World Series one pitch from victory. From a Wildcat High School dynasty to the golden days of the Browns, Barons, and Crunch, this book will change the way the entire sports nation looks at Cleveland.
Cleveland, you will have an October to remember.
Cleveland's Finest by Vince for every Cleveland sports fan. Available now. Get your copy today.
Back in 1990, when I joined Herb in the booth, you could say that first game was when I became a lifelong Tribe fan. Something about Cleveland made us want to stay and call it our home, raise our family here. I can promise you one thing, home or on the road, I feel what you folks feel, what you feel every game. Cleveland fans are passionate and pretty vocal. I respect that. This is our team. This is our town. This is a Tribe town.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by GV Art and Design. It's not just a shirt, it's a statement. GVArtwork.com.
Hit it! Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Here comes the hot stepper.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live here on the sportsfix.net. Thanks to John McMullen for joining us there in that last segment. J-Rocc back with you here as we roll on. Phone lines are still not open because we got my man Dan Wismar coming up next, but you can hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. J-Rocc back with you here as we roll back into the show. And as I get ready to go to the phones here and talk to my man Dan Wismar, I was thinking of just some of the different things that we've talked about and how it all ties together. I had a funny little conversation with a friend of mine over the weekend. And it started out talking about, it was kind of a combination. He listens to the show, and we were like talking about some different things that we've talked about on the show lately. We're talking about Johnny Football and, LeBron and all Gordon and all of this stuff. So like while we were talking about kind of the combination issues of Josh Gordon's thing and Johnny Football, and I was making the point about that we talk about here on the show about how for as much as the fans and the media talk about Johnny this and Manziel that, and how the regulation that's going to come from the locker room is bigger than anything else, and how, anyways, but so we get to talk about that, and we're talking about Josh Gordon, and somehow Aaron Hernandez come out, and I'm like, man, think about it. Like, people that think that that's not true, stuff that think about, man, we go, yeah, they're going to set a guy straight. A veteran's gonna, veteran will put you in your place. And you think about, like, and somehow, like this, it was one of those conversations that just kind of morphed. Next thing you know, we're talking about hazing rookies. And next thing you know, we're talking about, man, think about Aaron Hernandez, man. Think of all the cats that on the football field, either on the Patriots or on another team in practice or during a game, that talk trash. We were like, man, all the talk trash that goes on, all the stuff that goes on and getting heated. Think about now, if I'm one of those cats, I'm thinking back and going, man, I might never talk trash to another football player in my life when I realize that man murdered someone allegedly over a spilled drink on a shoe, man. Like, it was like a skit out of a TV show or something, like a comedy sketch or something, man, like Chappelle's show or something. I mean, a man, hey, man, I've been getting disrespected lately. Guy spills a drink on his foot. He says, you know what? I'm going to blow him away at the stop sign when we pull out of the place, man. And I'm going, there's got to be some NFL players that said way worse to him than just spilling a drink on his foot. Matter of fact, that was the conversation he was having with his boys, was that he had been getting tested on the field lately and nobody was giving him his proper respect. And I'm going, man, I'm just thinking, if I'm an NFL player right now and I'm thinking back, talking trash, man, to Aaron Hernandez, going, man, I'm luckier than I thought I was, man, because that man very well could have murdered me over some trash talk on a football field. Again, a random story, don't know where it came, but we were just, going through that and just, because we were talking about rookie hazing and straightening, veterans will straighten a guy out, and I'm going, yeah, till you straighten out Aaron Hernandez, and now those guys are going, man, maybe I shouldn't have duct taped him to that pole, man. He might be a drive-by going down here or something. But, man, we haven't even talked about that in a while. His trial. You got a big trial coming, and they're going to put you away for a long time when they don't. That thing is a year from now. It's scheduled a year from now because they know the circus is coming. So he'll just be biding his time in jail. But, man, over a spilt drink, man. Whoo. That's why they say nothing good can happen at the bars, man. Nothing good can happen when you go out. But anyways, I'm going to go to the phone lines. My man, Dan Wismar. Dan, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great, Jerry. Like Jim Tressel used to say, nothing good ever happens after 10 o'clock p.m.
Yeah.
But, I guess Johnny Manziel better look around and, figure out who the murderers are in the locker room before before he takes anybody on. So you're right.
No, it didn't have to do with him. It was one of those weird, like, at the end of it, you go, how the hell did we end up here when we were talking about this, and this, and then you end up in like but we got to talking about that, and think about it. Over his time, right. Especially his rookie season,
sort of like what happens in our conversation every time I get on the air together.
Exactly.
You never know where it's going. But,
that's the fun part.
I was just going to say a lot's happened since we last talked. Cavs got a draft pick. The baseball season hit the official halfway mark the other day, and talking about a new deal for Brian Hoyer. So, yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Plus, the Buckeyes are about to make a big splash in recruiting, and maybe we can spend a minute or two on that.
Absolutely. Oh, what? But you don't want to listen. He's like, you're driving the boat, man. You just took. Dan Wismar just called in and took over, man. I'm with you. I am with you, baby. That's what I need. I need somebody to drive the ship. Sometimes, I'm a captain lost in the fog. No, good segue though, because there is a lot to talk about since the last time you and I talked. You know what? Let's talk a little Indians real quick, because I wanted to expound. We got into the phone calls and stuff, and then we got into football, and I want to go back a little bit to go back to Josh Tomlin, as I've got some additional statistics here looking back at what he did the other night and how comparable it is. I mean, according to baseballreference.com, it is only the 21st such pitching performance in pretty much in baseball history since 1914. I mean, to be one hit away from a perfect game, I mean, it's just amazing. They grade every start by every game by every pitcher throughout this season, and Josh Tomlin's 96 rating by baseballreference.com Saturday night, the only one pitcher had a better game this season, and that was Clayton Kershaw's no-hitter back against Colorado, and it was just 6 points higher. I mean, really really amazing performance Saturday night. One for the record books. 17,000 plus Indians games. And Lenny Barker's the only other person to do what he did.
It was spectacular. And more than that, it was just fun to watch. I mean, when you got a game going on like that, you just sit back and just soak it in and savor it. And, you know, I'm kind of glad for, you know, the sake of the other team that they got a clean hit. You know, that the single against him and the leading off the fifth inning was a clean single. You'd hate to have been Tomlin if that had been cheap, or if that had been a disputed player, if it had been a borderline error or something like that. You'd love to see a tried no-hitter after 33 years, but you know, at least the single against him was a clean hit, and then he went ahead and retired the last 15 in a row. Really, just a spectacular performance. And like you were talking earlier, it's you don't know what you're going to get with Josh Tomlin when Bruce is on the phone with you. You know, it's you get good Tomlin, you get bad Tomlin, and obviously he was tuned up, and he was probably frustrated by his 3 straight losses, I think, coming into this start. And he'd been getting tagged pretty good. He gave up several homers, and he was really back to the good Josh Tomlin. And boy, was he ever! It was just a treat to watch it.
Yeah, he was just locked in there, you know. And I was joking with Jerry while we were watching it late night. Man, he had the hair going out the back of the cap. I said, man, he's maybe a foot shorter, man, but he got that Randy Johnson look. He's got his eyes dialed in, got them curls coming out the back there. He was going to town. It was a beautiful, beautiful game to watch. And even though I'm an Indians guy, Felix Hernandez was every bit as beautiful to watch yesterday against the Indians. And something I just saw, I didn't even notice this, but we were talking earlier when I said offensively, and you and I've talked about how offensively the Indians have been stronger season-wise than people, I think, assume that they've been. But the shutout yesterday was only the 3rd time the Indians have been shut out all season long. So that's kind of, when you think about it, you may think, wow, only 3, and it's kind of amazing. We're halfway through the season. They've only been shut out 3 times, and that's the first time that they've been one hit since back in July of 2011.
Yeah, you're right, and at the halfway point here, it might make some sense to take a look. I had been thinking coming on that we might want to talk about, first half MVPs, and my buddies and I, when we used to watch Buckeye games, we would pick an MVP and then we would pick an LVP, the least valuable player.
I don't need much work on that one.
I was thinking about, if you pick the position player and first half MVPs, on the Indians, it's really pretty easy. I mean, how could you not pick Michael Brantley and Corey Kluber as your MVPs for the first half? The LVPs probably get a little bit, more complicated. You pretty much put your vote in for Nick Swisher for the LVP.
For Ohio,
and it'd be hard to argue with that one as well. If you had an LVP pitcher, I don't know who you'd pick. Maybe somebody that started out in the rotation and faded out. You wouldn't want to say Carrasco because he's kind of salvaged himself
I think
a little bit in the
Masterson,
first half.
Dan. Don't you?
But maybe a Benny Pastano or somebody who or maybe Axford if you're going to pick a guy who's sort of been a first half disappointment in your pitching staff. But
see, I gotta say Masterson, and I don't know. Let's jump on that real quick. Maybe you disagree.
Well,
I gotta say Masterson because of the expectations of what he should have done this year. And I'm not saying we expected him to go out here and win 20 games in the first half and blow everybody away, but he's been so inconsistent in a contract year when so many people expected him to be a big part of being the state. We're sitting here talking about trading for pitchers. Meanwhile, the guy that should be that level guy that we're going to end up trading for has been inconsistent for us here, because I mean, think about the guys we're talking about trading for. When you're looking at that level trade market and you're not trying to give up the farm for David Price, then you're going to get a Justin Masterson type guy. That's the kind of guys you acquire at the trade deadline.
Yeah, that's true, and even maybe a step down from that, a Bartolo Colon type guy.
Exactly.
People have been talking about. But you're right.
What do you think?
Expectations is the reason that he's such a disappointment. The other thing I was thinking about is I'm looking at the stats to just take some numbers down on Michael Brantley and his 318, 12 homers, 53 RBIs, almost a 900 OPS, 896. Is that middle word of MVP, and that's valuable. If you look at value, we were debating, and by the way, Terry Pluto yesterday put out the numbers. I don't know if I've ever heard them categorically announced or publicly stated of what the difference was between what the Indians were offering Masterson and what they wanted. We speculated about it. Was it 16? Was it 17 million a year? Was it 3 years? Whatever. The Indians, presumably, according to Pluto, offered 45, 3 years at 15. And what Masterson's camp was looking for was 3 years at 17.5 or 52.5. And so they were off by $2.5 million a year was the difference between what they were looking for and what the Indians were offering. I'll just leave it at this: Corey Kluber makes $514,000 okay?
For the next 4 years too. Like he is so far away from getting paid, it's not even funny.
That's right. Just to give you some perspective on value, the other thing was Michael Brantley makes 2.3. So talk about a steal in today's Major League Baseball market, an all-star outfielder, corner outfielder.
And that's only because
putting up those numbers for $2.3 million. So that's the valuable part of most valuable when at least from the way the front office looks at it.
And that's only because we extended him and gave him the contract. Other than that, you talk about value, man. Everybody that's contributing on this roster might be making less than $1 million a piece otherwise. I mean, seriously, look at the guys who have seriously contributed, and then look at where the money is. That's an interesting
right. Your money's wrapped up in Swisher and Santana and Masterson and those cats, and those are the guys that, with the late exception of Santana, have been disappointing in 2014. So yeah, you're right that it's the money that's wrapped up in those guys, and the contributors are still in that pre-arbitration phase.
Absolutely, you're going to have them for a while. I mean, to think, I saw it. I don't remember where I saw it. It was just like a blurb in an article I was reading about Kluber, where it was about him still 4 years of club control after this. And I'm like, man, I mean, obviously he'll make some dough because you don't want to screw a guy over every year and just, I mean, that's just no way to build a relationship. So I'm sure that they'll work. I think I saw that they're going to talk this winter about an extension with him. So he won't make peanuts forever, but it's amazing when you think, and then you we're talking about, should we give Masterson 15? He wants 17.5, and Corey Kluber's like, man, that's like, 30 times what I'm making this season, man. So that's an amazing split, the dichotomy of the pay scale in baseball,
Yeah, no doubt about it. And
but you got to have that here. You got to have a truckload of guys making $500,000 and contributing to compete in Cleveland.
That's right. When you're in Cleveland, that's the way you've got to do it, and no different with Lonnie Chisenhall. I don't know offhand what Lonnie's salary is, but
it can't be much.
He's saying, again, $500,000, 5
Yeah, it's got to be $500,000.
So he makes even less than Kluber does. But and Lonnie, I've been charting Lonnie's plate appearances. He was creeping up on it the other day, and then Tito sat him down for a game, so he dropped back to another 3 plate appearances. He's 7 short right now.
He's at like 3.05, right? Like he's like something like that per game average, right? It's like right underneath.
Yeah, 3.1 is what you need, and per game your team plays. And right now he's got 244 plate appearances, and he needs 251.1. So, and, hopefully by the time we break for the All-Star game, he'll be there. And unfortunately, he's dropped 40 points off the batting average since I started figuring those plate appearances out. He's up at 390 on the rarefied air a couple of weeks ago. He's down to 350, but that would still put him tops in the American League in batting.
Way tops too. And I'll tell you, since we're talking money and stuff here, if $511,000 is where he's at this year, he's arbitration eligible next year, but he's not able to be a free agent. Indians still control Chisenhall for 4 more years too. But interesting question. Let's say he finishes this season. Let's say he drops another 15, 20 points in the batting average. He finishes in the 330s, somewhere in that area, which is still a hell of a season. And he plays strong all season, so it's not bench play. He continues to play effectively for leverage time. Arbitration next year. How much money does Lonnie Chisenhall, how much is he worth compared to, I mean, obviously making $500,000 this year. How much does this one season jump up what he makes in arbitration? And I can see already, I know the Indians love to avoid that, but that would be interesting, the difference between what the Indians offer and what he wants, because up until this year, he's been the unknown factor, the potential that has not come through, but this year changes that. But could become an expensive free or arbitration hearing for the Indians after what he's done this season.
Yeah, that's true, and I think a lot depends on what kind of second half he does have, and I think we'll be fortunate if he only drops another 15, 20 points. I'm hoping he can finish the year above 300. If he does that,
absolutely,
it'll be a remarkable season. And how does his run production continue? He's been moved up in the lineup after hitting 6th, 7th, and 8th. Most of the first part of the season, he's been moved up. He's been hitting 5th. He's been hitting 6th, and getting more RBI opportunities. Still has 36 as we speak with 8 homers. So he's not a big run producer, and I think a lot of it will depend on how that goes. And also, again, the things that teams don't like to talk about in arbitration hearings, and the players don't like to hear in arbitration hearings, is the downside. What are you doing with the glove, Lonnie? And that could have gone better in this first half. So he won't. There will be reasons that he would like to avoid that arbitration hearing as well.
Question for you, though, Dan.
And hopefully they can settle it amicably.
Just you and I talking here. Question for you, though. You said you'd be happy if he finished the season at 300, and obviously that would be a successful number. However, looking at the fact that, let's say, not a full half of the season, but at least a third of the season, he hit around 400. So if he finished the season at 300, wouldn't that also say that he batted 200 the rest of the way, and that he basically benefited from such a red-hot first month and a half that maybe he is not that much beyond where you thought he was heading into the season? And I'm not trying. Hey, I love Lonnie, and I hope that he stays hot. I said I think he stays, in the 330s. But hitting 200 the second 2/3 of the season, does that, like I said, is that just a really, really red hot start that you rode and held on to bat 300? Does that change your opinion of Lonnie Chisenhall going forward?
Well, I think it would. If he hits 300 for the season, that will mean he would have had a pretty miserable second half. You're right.
Right.
And that would be disappointing. Like you say, it would be a good number, but it would not be a good sign for Lonnie going forward. Hopefully, and you've got to take all the factors into consideration. Pitchers are getting a better look at him now. Pitchers have some film on him now, and they're looking for holes in his swing. And all that adjusting is going on, and he's going to have to adjust back. But yeah, you always have to look at the batting average over the course of the season. If a guy bats, 200 in the first half and 400 in the second half, and he ends up at the end of the year, you say, wow, he hit 300. That's a great year. Well, not really, because for half the season he hit $2. And so what was he doing to help his team during that first half? So it's you got to look at the long and short of it. I think it's probably unrealistic. He would have to have a really bad second half based on what we've seen to drop all the way to 300. Well, like you said, we've just seen him drop 40 points in a couple of weeks, a few weeks, I should say, maybe 3 weeks, since he was hitting at that 390 clip a few weeks ago. So it can happen, and obviously your average can drop a lot faster when you're at 390 than it can when you're at 350. Still, Lonnie's at the point where if he goes out to the ballpark and goes 1 for 3, his average drops.
That's
most
true.
People can't say that. No, you get a hit in the ball game. Usually your average is going to go up. Well, not when you're hitting 350. If you're going 1 for 3. So
that's
anyway,
a great point.
It's just fun to watch, and we'll see how it plays out. But
that is great though, Dan. Some people don't think that the way you just put that. If you're hitting 350 and you go 1 for 3, your batting average dropped. Like that's the thing, Like that's when you hear things broken down compartmentally, then you go, wow, yeah, I didn't think of it that way. But yeah, 1 for 3 is a good night for most guys, Hey.
Exactly. I've been watching that with Brantley too, because Brantley's been hovering right around that 325, 330 mark. And again, 333 is 1 for 3, and so still Michael Brantley goes out and goes 1 for 3. right now his average would go up a tick, but
yeah,
for a while there, you got to get a hit a game in order to even come close to that. And I saw Lonnie was 0 for 3 yesterday with a walk, or Brantley was rather, and Lonnie had our base hit yesterday, I guess, right?
Right. Our hit. I like that. You gotta we group it together. Our hit. Yeah, way to go, Lonnie.
Our Cleveland Indians.
We're all sharing that one. We're sharing it, man. Gotta milk that one, man. Hey, here we sit, man. Literally halfway through, almost exactly. Whether you're looking at games, whether you're looking at months on the schedule. I mean, we are heading into July tomorrow, and it's coming. I mean, this thing's cooking now. We're at halfway. Where are you at with the Indians here, heading into the second half? Are you buying? Are you selling? Are you sticking?
Well, I think I'm going to try to buy because I think it's way too early to count this team out. We've seen that Tigers can go into some tailspins. They've righted the ship after their struggle. A couple of weeks ago, and they've reeled off 8-2, I think, in their last 10 games or some such. And they could still run away with this division because it's I think on paper everybody would still agree that they probably have the best team in the division. But I still, if I'm the Indians, I'm buying. I'm trying to improve the team, not just for 2014, just because if you're going to consider yourself a winning team, a playoff caliber team, a team that's striving for championships, you've got to go forward, not back. You can't be retooling. You're obviously got to be looking to improve the roster and improve the roster short term and long term. So I'm hoping that that's their mindset, that they're going to go out and try to make their roster better. And I hope that doesn't just mean let's make our roster better by shedding dollars from payroll because we happen to play in a small market. I hope I think there's more thought that goes into it than that and more of a long-term perspective, but I hope we continue to have a glass half full approach, even if it is looking, beyond 2014.
And I got to tell you, I'm sticking with where I'm at. I think the Indians win this division, and I'm going to say again what I've said. I think they're a trade for or somebody that's in the mix becoming this person, but they are one solid, consistent starting pitcher away from doing that. And here's a stat that leans me to that. This one comes from Mike over at didthetry.winlastnight.com. But, really, I think we can say that Corey Kluber has been the consistent, Masterson hasn't been the guy. Corey Kluber from the beginning of the season has been solid. Josh Tomlin, who we talked about in the spring, should have started. All of that's done, whatever. When he was called up, the Indians had lost 8 of 10. They were 13-19 when Josh Tomlin was promoted to the rotation. Since then, the Indians have gone 24-20. Basically, since they added a second dependable starter, and with the exception of that little blip that he hit there that was rough, that's what Tomlin has been. Once you added a second consistent starter to that inconsistent rotation, you're up above 500 cents. I think you add a third one and then just get what you're getting out of the young guys finishing the 4th and 5th spot. I think that's the difference to winning this division because, as you see, they have been so much consistently better since they've gotten 2 good guys going at the same time in the rotation.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, and I guess my question in response to that would be, is that third consistent starter currently in the rotation? I mean, person, could Masterson? Obviously, Masterson has the capability to be that guy if he goes ahead and starts being that guy.
He does that though, Dan. He'll go out tomorrow and throw a 2-hitter, and you'll be like, man, that's it. That's what the Indians need. And then he'll give up 8 runs the next time he goes out there.
Yeah, right. Unless unless he doesn't, unless
you know what I mean. That's
unless
what
this is a turning point. Yeah, you're right. Based on the track record this year, that's what we might expect of him, and that's what he's shown us this season. One thing that I was reading the other day, and it may have been Terry Pluto talking about Masterson's being up and down and not putting good seasons back to back. Had good seasons in 2011, 2013, not so good seasons in 2012, 2014. That's been his track record over at least over that 4-year stretch, and that goes back almost to the start of his major league career. But that's something I hadn't really been that conscious of. But it's the numbers are there for you. So yeah, you hope it can be that guy. And I guess my other question would be: do you think Carlos Carrasco has found his home in the bullpen, or do you think that at some point in time, based on inconsistent starting pitching elsewhere in the rotation, that he gets another shot at it?
I got to tell you, that's funny that you ask that, because I was talking, it might have been Jerry, we were talking the other day. I was talking to somebody, and I said, if they continue to go, man, we just got to get some more consistency. And if Carrasco keeps doing what he's doing, I know that they'll be tempted. They'll be tempted to try, maybe and they may have to if in an emergency. We saw how they got kind of crunched here. That may happen, but the flip side is if it ain't broke, you don't fix it, and man, if I finally got Carlos Carrasco giving me my money's worth, the best that I can anyway, and I'm sticking with that. But I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they get squeezed again, that they don't think about it, because maybe you go, well, if he can do it for 2 and 3 innings, maybe he can carry that over, but he's never been able to carry that over, so I wouldn't mess with it. But I think he's an upset. Hopefully the guy is here. I just think the guys are so young that even Salazar down the stretch last year, I mean, you saw he had that potential, but you had the inconsistency even down the stretch there when everybody was in awe of him, and here it bounced back to this year. You Bauer, I mean, House, no matter what, we're talking about young 20-something guys here. So I don't know if any of them this year can give you the consistency. They can give you some good pitching, some good appearances, but that consistency, I don't know if any of these guys are mature enough and capable to do that. What do you think?
Well, I think you're right in the name that we have left out of that conversation so far is McAllister.
That's
yes. If nothing else, that's what he gave you last year.
Yep.
Is consistent quality starts and really a healthy season, pretty much start to finish, and really was, I think, one of the most valuable people on this team last year, just
Agreed.
for that reason, that he went out there and he would tough it out for 6-7 innings every night. And sometimes he had it, sometimes he didn't, but he won double-digit games, and he's a guy who would not be. Even Kluber's only 25, right? Or no, Kluber's 28. But
yeah.
We've got young guys in this rotation. McAllister, not necessarily one of them, and he's been around a while, more mature, more of a veteran. He's a guy who, man, this team needs him to come back healthy and step up and be the McAllister of last year. I don't think anyone had great expectations for McAllister going into last year, but boy, you come out, and I don't remember if he had 10 or 11 wins, but last season, but boy, he hasn't looked like a double-digit victory pitcher this year, except in little flashes, and that's what you need. Is he's a guy that could be that third guy if McAllister's consistency doesn't come around.
You know what's funny?
Masterson's doesn't.
Oh, yeah, Masterson. Yeah. What's funny about what you just are talking about there is I remember all winter and during the spring, especially me and Mike Brandenberry, we would talk, and he was so concerned about the starting pitching. I mean, clearly, and he had the foresight to see what was coming. And he would ask me, he'd go, well, what do you think? And I'd go, man, all right. Kluber's the man. Tomlin's been my guy since back in the day. So I'm with. I mean, I've loved him, I think, since the first time I watched him pitch. But he was my guy coming in. So I said, man, I looked for Masterson, as you know, to have a big season this year because of his free agency and everything else. So I'm thinking, man, and McAllister. Looking at what he did, I'm going, okay, McAllister, I worry about his health, but that's about all I worry about with him. Masterson will be the best he's been this year, thinking, wrong me, that the contract year would make a big difference. And then you got Kluber and Tomlin. And I'm like, so if one of Bauer, House, Salazar, if one of those guys can fill the other spot, we're good. He would throw things at, and this is what the but is exactly what we're seeing here now. Masterson did not lock down like I thought that he would and be consistent. So that eliminated that spot of it. McAllister's health, we've got to get him back into it there. I mean, Tomlin didn't even start with the rotation. It was a month and a half into the season before it came. So my starting rotation dreams fell apart quickly, and I saw what he was talking about. If it didn't work out as constructed, there was trouble because underneath was all inexperienced young guys, and he was exactly right about that. They needed another veteran, and he's called that since the wintertime. He was right about that.
Well, yeah, and we're always impatient with young starters that have promise. No matter who it is, any starting pitcher, is going to come up and he's going to take his lumps in the major leagues for the first season or two before they really start to get it and they start to mature and they start to learn how to pitch at this level. So you're so right. And even in the season, we were thinking Bauer, might be up sometime during the year. We didn't see him as a part of this rotation coming out of camp. He wasn't part of it. And we've lost 60% of that. McAllister going down and Carrasco flailing out and Salazar flailing out. 60% of your day one rotation is not in it at the moment, and that's something nobody expected. And couple that with your closer flaming out on you, and it's remarkable that they're sitting there within earshot of 500 at the turn here.
Man, and I hate to sound like an Indians apologist. I know some of you out there are going to get mad at me and Dan because he just set me up for this, but he's right. Looking at what has gone wrong for the Indians in the first half of the season, for them to be where they're at, you go, man, there's no doubt in my mind that this team can be so much better and that they have not even brushed the ceiling of what they can do and what I think they will do, hopefully, in the second half. But yeah, because if you look at what's happened, it is a credit to them that they are where they are and that this season has not completely fallen off the rails, because it could. In many places, it would. In many places, they'd be sitting here, with a 300 winning percentage and planning for the fire sale, and they're not. They're right there with the ability to control their own destiny, Dan.
That's true, and you can look at it one of two ways. You can credit that to Tito, and you can say, a lesser manager might have let the whole thing fall apart. You can also say that, if 39-42 is what we've seen for the first 81 games, what is there really to let us, to make us believe that there's something other than 39-42 in the second half, other than, where it reminds me of what they say about the divorced guy who's getting married again. It's the triumph of hope over experience. I personally am always a glass half full guy, and I expect a better second half, and maybe not too many 10-game winning streaks like we had to finish up last year. But you're right. It would be hard to imagine things going worse for this team, personnel-wise and injury-wise, and in other ways than things have gone in this first half. So hopefully better days are around the corner.
You got that right. Dan, you and I, man, we haven't even touched the Bucks. We haven't touched the Cavs. Hey, let's carry some of this over until Wednesday, and plus, we'll see what happens with the first couple games of this Dodgers series as well, and we'll have a bunch of things to talk about heading into the holiday long weekend here coming up on Wednesday. Right. Yeah, that sounds good. I'll look forward to seeing you then. And one thing I will say before we go about Hoyer, one thing that, an offer of an extension, it doesn't tell us much, but it tells us that they know that, and they believe or they think that he's healthy, or else they wouldn't be making this offer. And I agree with you there. And you heard what John and I were saying when we were talking about that. To me, it is all in the Browns' best interest to make a deal. And it is absolutely in none of Brian Hoyer's right now until he sees how the landscape shakes out at least over training camp before they really sit down and say, okay, let's see what we can work out. Yeah, that's true. And Brian Hoyer doesn't have a track record as a quote-unquote established, successful NFL quarterback. A lot of people think he can be that, but he's not there yet. So he's not exactly playing with a full hand here. But you know what? I didn't say this. Sorry to run over you there. I didn't mean that. I didn't say this to John, but I will mention this here. Is Brian Hoyer's the kind of guy that believes in himself? Now, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't broach the idea, at least talk about it with the Browns, of something incentively based. If he plays 80% of the snaps, this salary kicks in, and maybe do a 2-year deal with the Browns to give them the stability of knowing that they've got Hoyer for 2 more seasons, and gives him the ability of knowing. And if he plays, say, 90% of the snaps or more, then there's a player out or something like that. And it gives him the ability to keep himself not locked in a bad situation. And it gives the Browns the ability to figure something out for the next couple of years, good or bad, depending on what happens with John Manziel. I think that I could see Brian Hoyer maybe doing something more incentively based. And that way, if he is the backup, he's happy. And if he's the starter, he has the opportunity to get paid and or go somewhere else.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That he should build in that kind of money, and so that at least if he's starting for this team, he's making more than the $2 million a year that the Johnny Manziel, the backup guy with the baseball cap and the clipboard, is making.
And I don't think he cares about money, to be honest with you. Brian Hoyer doesn't care about money, man. Brian Hoyer cares about the opportunity that he has not had ever before to go out there and be the guy.
Yeah, that's true. I think we're both Hoyer guys going into the season, and you root for the local kid to stay on 2 healthy legs and win some football games.
All right, Dan Wismar, my man, you have a great week, and we'll catch up on Wednesday, brother.
Okay, Jerry, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, as always. And, hey, you guys can tweet with Dan 24/7 on Twitter at DWismar, DWISMAR. And we will talk to him again on Wednesday. I'm going to take a break, come back, wrap things up. Final segment of the Sports Fix with me. I know, just little old me coming your way. Hey, last chance to call, 216-539-7535. We'll see you on the other side of this. Coming back with the Sports Fix.
I hear that makes you fall. Approaching a time that is frantic. Standing with their backs to the wall.
Yo, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I wanna really, really, really wanna.
Listen to the Sports Fix
if you wanna be my lover.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. Of course, you know during Brown season, we're there each and every week. What a fun time it was last year. But not just that, so many more reasons for you to check out the Harry Buffalo today. The UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events. Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Indians fans, GV Art and Design has unleashed their new baseball collection. This summer, you've got to have one of the hottest baseball shirts available. Indians themes, GV Art has them covered from top to bottom. Chief Wahoo, keep the Chief, one of the hottest sellers going today. GV Artwork, knocking it out of the park, teaming up with Michael Brantley to create a custom Dr. Smooth t-shirt, bringing back an old classic. GV Artwork, bringing out the wild thing. Give them the heater design. The Cleveland That I Glove collection continues to grow. New designs for women and so much more. GVArtwork.com, bringing it full force to the plate for baseball season this year. Whether you check them out online, GVArtwork.com, use the sales code FIX10, FIX10 to save 10% on your total purchase. Whether you go to their store in Lakewood, check them out at the Cleveland Indians team shops around Progressive Field and so much more. GV Art and Design. It's not just a shirt, it's a statement. Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee.
choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 bridge in Valley View. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. quicklane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
This is the Sports Fix. What is your name?
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Dude, what do you want?
Well, it's this rug I have. It really tied the room together.
We are not a show to be swept under the rug. We are a show to be heard.
It's the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix, wrapping things up here on the sportsfix.net and, of course, across all the other platforms. You guys know where you're listening to the show. Thank you guys so much for joining us today, wherever you're at, however you're listening, whatever time it is, each and every one of you. I appreciate having you, and thank you guys, man, as we longer show today. It's always this way, but especially this week, we've got a lot to cram in here in the short week, holiday weekend. Going to be some good times had, man, this weekend. Hopefully you guys have got some good plans too, and looking forward to it, but that's ahead, man. We've got 2 more days of Sports Fix coming your way, baby. Tomorrow, what do we got on tap tomorrow? We have got Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. He'll be with us here tomorrow and talk some Indians baseball. We'll have some late night Tribe Live to talk about. We'll look back at the month of June and the entire first half of the season with Mike. He did some good stuff on the website on DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. You guys want to go check out some of their articles. We've fed them through our stuff, but some good look backs, and we'll talk to Mike tomorrow. It's going to be a good, of course, I'm sure, some soccer talks as well to talk about there. Who else is with us? Dr. Football. Phil Checkus, he'll be in the house tomorrow as well. Always a good time when the doctor's in the house. Looking forward to talking to him. And who knows what other trouble we can get into here as the week rolls on the Sports Fix. We'll have a lot to talk about. I'm going to try to get Doug Plagans on the line. Usually he's been end of the week here, but I'll see if with our short week, if I'm able to get him on here in the next day or two. I'd love to talk to him, especially after another victory for the Cleveland Gladiators as they just continue to roll on. I had a bunch of you guys send pictures from the games and tag us. I know Ron Graham on Twitter. I saw a couple of guys on Facebook as well. I love that. But whenever you guys go to any of these events, tag us in your pictures. Feel free. Send them this way. I love to see that stuff. And anyways, Gladiators win again. Dominic Goodman, season high 16 receptions. They continue to roll. Stars and Stripes night coming up. So hopefully I can get Doug on the show here before we hit it for the mini vacation. So looking forward to that. But congratulations to the Gladiators as well, man. And hey, you know what? They continue to roll. I know it's not the big 3, but hey, man, I'll take a title any way I can get it, even if it's just to tide you over until training camp. Seriously, though, Gladiators doing well. Attendance-wise, obviously doing well on the field here. And, man, before you know it, Gladiator season will wrap up. We'll already be heading into the next Q season with the hockey and the football. It really does never stop. Soccer, it just rolls from one right to the next. But anyways, congrats to the Glads. Looking forward to talking to Doug this week as we head into Stars and Stripes night coming up. Indians tonight as we wrap things up. Looking ahead, we talked a little bit earlier about what's on tap. Kluber Lang taking the mound for the Tribe. 10:10 p.m. interleague series with the Dodgers. See, I really dig those opportunities, and this is what used to be more special than since they did so much interleague play. But the Dodgers, the team that you rarely see play the Indians. This is a good matchup here for sure. Dan Herron, we talked about his struggles coming in. Even though he's been a quality start guy in the early part of the season, 4 of his last 5, as we said, hasn't been able to get through. And his last time out was his shortest appearance of the season. Going to be key for the Indians to get into that Dodger bullpen and take advantage. Meanwhile, Corey Kluber takes his 7-5 record on the mound for the Indians. Tribe right now 3 games below 500 as they sit there, and the Dodgers 10 games over, and they've really gotten themselves hot. They dug themselves out of that big hole that they put themselves in to start the season, and they've really got themselves humming. So it's going to be a challenge for the Indians here. This is not cakewalk at all. This is a good team and a good test. As we said, just because you miss Kershaw doesn't mean that you don't have a test here with the starters coming your way from the Dodgers. And then you come home, you got fireworks, like at Cleveland, it's all coming. You got fireworks and Dollar Dogs and Larry Doby jersey and 4th of July weekend and the Yankees and all of that. So there's a ton of things coming after that. But first, you got 3 with the Dodgers. It starts tonight, 10:10. Corey Kluber, Dan Herron. We'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll have Mike Brandenberry. We'll have Dr. Football. We'll have you and me. And who else is going to be here? I don't know. It felt like that Outcast song. Me and you. Anyways, we'll all be here. Same bad time. Same bad channel. Live right here at noon, baby. So be here with us. Until then, enjoy your night. Go Tribe, baby. Some late night Tribe Live. We'll be talking some soccer tomorrow. So go Team USA. And I will see you tomorrow right here on the Sports Fix. We love you, Cleveland. We'll see you then. Until then, have a great night, baby.
Who likes